Chapter 2736. In the sky of ancestral dragon world, a humanoid dragon man stood in the void. His dragon tail was coiled around a person. Blood was dripping from his back and one of his hands. All the claws on this hand had exploded and one of his arms was broken. The man entangled by the dragon's tail was filled with fear and hatred. The old Taoist could not help but hate. The information given by Guan Qianxiu was far from the truth. This was not a warrior at the initial stage of the fifth tribulation. This was a lord of the sixth tribulation and a powerful one at that. His physical defense was comparable to that of a quasi-emperor swish. Lu Li reached out with his uninjured claw. Instead of the old Taoist's head, Lu Li aimed at the man's arm. The old Taoist had an armor over his body, but it could not protect him from the dragon's claw. One of his arms was broken. Lu Li moved on and crushed the man's other arm. The old Taoist didn't attack again. He knew some soul attacks, but they were not powerful. The hammer he released was his strongest attack. If he could not kill Lu Li, then there was no point in doing anything else. Both of his arms were broken by Lu Li. The old Taoist's facial muscles were twitching in pain, but his eyes were calm. He looked at Lu Li and said, "Lu Li, how about we make a deal? Let go of my brother and I will tell you where Guan Qianxiu is." Betraying the employer was a taboo in the assassin industry. That being said, the three heroes of the Demon Lake were not just assassins. They were about to die, so they didn't have to be so particular. More importantly, Guan Qianxiu had given him false information. How could he not be angry and seek revenge? Lu Li didn't kill the man right away because he wanted to get some information. He said coldly, "Tell me where Guan Qianxiu is and I will give you a quick death." The old Taoist sighed after some thoughts. "Okay. Guan Qianxiu is in a small mountain fort 3 million miles to the south of the Voodoo Mountain. There is a Camel Mountain nearby. That is a secret base of the Guan family. He is waiting for our news there." Bang! As soon as the old Taoist finished his words, Lu Li reached out his claw and killed the old Taoist. Lu Li didn't stop. He flew toward the bald man who was still rolling on the ground. The bald man had been burned to the point that he no longer looked like a human. His aura was also extremely weak, as if he could faint at any time. In the blink of an eye, Lu Li had flown over. Instead of using his claws, he swung his tail at them. Die! The bald strong man, who seemed to be dying, suddenly jumped up. A cyan-colored broadsword appeared in his hand. He felt as if he had become one with the broadsword. The broadsword turned into a ray of light and hacked at Lu Li's head. At this moment, Lu Li felt the whole world had disappeared. All he could see was the glaring sword light. Without any hesitation, he raised his half-crippled arm to block in front of him. His dragon tail swept out, and at the same time, his other claw fiercely swiped forward. Bang! With a muffled sound, Lu Li's arm was cut off. The ray of sword energy was still on his chest, breaking some dragon scales. However, Lu Li's tail had reached the bald man as well. Lu Li's claw landed on the bald man's arm. Lu Li exerted force and the bald man's arm was torn into a mist of blood. Lu Li moved his arm forward and grabbed the bald man's head easily. Amidst the bald man's terrified eyes, Lu Li crushed the man's head. The bald giant only had time to spit out a sentence. "His defense is indeed very strong." Phew. After killing 3 lords, Lu Li had suffered a great deal of damage. His back was covered in blood and half of one of his hands had been cut off. There were also a few broken scales on his body and his chest was stained red with blood. "Well done, Lu Li." Only now did the blood-evil emperor send a message. He said with appreciation, "Your dragon transformation is strong. Your physical body can be compared to that of a quasi-emperor. I don't think you have fully grasped it yet. You don't even know how to use the dragon chi in you. Now, go and tend to your wounds. Find a way to stop the dragon transformation." "No." Lu Li took some healing pellets. He flew down and put away the interspatial rings of the three lords. A glint of determination rose in his eyes as he said, I cannot rest. I have to kill someone. I have to kill Guan Qianqiu. Lu Li, don't be impulsive. Blood Evil Emperor said, you are injured and Emperor Rui will be here soon. Are you going to kill Guan Qianqiu now? Also, the Guan family is a rich family. Killing Guan Qianqiu will bring you a lot of trouble. What if the dragon transformation is stopped halfway? You will pass out. It is because the Guan family is a rich family that I have to do it. Lu Li's eyes were filled with killing intent. He said, if I die, the Heaven Emperor sect will not let go of the mastermind. But as long as I am alive, Guan Qianqiu will be fine. At worst, he will be grounded for 10,000 years or something. Someone in the Heaven Emperor sect who is related to the Guan family will plead for mercy for him. Now that I have made a scene, I will make it bigger. After all, reason is on my side. As long as Guan Qianqiu is alive, there will be a viper hiding in the dark, striking me every now and then. I can stop him once, but not more than once. Therefore, I must eliminate him and end his life once and for all. Blood Evil Emperor thought for a while and said, you have a point. If you are going to do it, then do it quickly. Also, do not let go of anyone in the fort. Do not tell anyone that you have the dragon transformation. This can be your secret move. Blood Fairy, let's go. Lu Li shouted. Blood Fairy flew up. Lu Li flapped his wings and dashed on. Soon, he found the exit and dashed into the Mount of Voodoo. The Mount of Voodoo was filled with poisonous fog and many of them were floating around. Lu Li could not care less. He flew up to avoid the poisonous fog. Punk, let me help you. Blood Evil Emperor saw that there was too much poisonous fog and Lu Li was too slow. Blood Evil Emperor's bead of soul glowed. A shadow came out and enveloped Lu Li. Blood Evil Emperor said, Punk, go. Lu Li did not hesitate. He flapped his wings and dashed toward the south in a blur. The Blood Evil Emperor would not lie to him. Lu Li could see the hatred in the Blood Evil Emperor's eyes. The Blood Evil Emperor even cursed at Guan Qianqiu. Clearly, the Blood Evil Emperor hated Guan Qianqiu for giving him the wrong information, which caused the three of them to lose their lives. Therefore, the Blood Evil Emperor wanted to get back at Guan Qianqiu. His recovery is so fast. Lu Li felt his wounds were healing fast. This was not because he had taken healing pellet. It was because his body was healing fast in the dragon transformation state. Though his arms were not growing back so quickly, the wounds had stopped bleeding and they were healing. The dragon energy is really useful. Lu Li remembered Blood Evil Emperor's words. He used the dragon energy to check his wounds. They were healing faster. While flying, Lu Li thought about the fight. I must learn to use the dragon energy. Wherever the dragon energy goes, my body will be stronger. Chapter 27:37. After the time for 2 incense sticks to burn after Lu Li left, the space on the Voodoo Mountain began to tremble. Following that, a huge black gate came out from which a man flew out like a sword. He was surrounded by toxic fog, but he didn't mind. He dashed into the cave in a blur and appeared in the ancestral dragon realm in an instant. It was the Rui Emperor. As soon as he came out, he used psychic power to check. Soon, his expressions were awful. He smelled blood. He flew over at the top of his speed, so fast that not many could see him clearly. In the time for a dozen breaths, he arrived at where Lu Li and the three were fighting. He glanced around and saw the 3 corpses. His eyes were filled with shock. The 3 heroes of the Demon Lake had died a miserable death. Their heads were crushed and the other 2 were dismembered. Pieces of flesh were everywhere. There were signs of fighting. It was a mess. Where is Lu Li? The Rui Emperor checked with psychic power. Soon, he was shocked again. The blood in the pool of ancestral dragon had dried up. Not a drop of blood remained. But he did find some pieces of Lu Li's robe. Scales? What kind of beast are these scales? Where did they come from? The Rue Emperor also saw some scales. The Rue Emperor was confused. Soon, he found Lu Li's hand that was chopped off. The arm was incomplete. One part of it was broken. But the Rue Emperor was even more surprised to see scales on the arm. The Rue Emperor started from a humble background. He had gone through many battles in his life and had rich experience. He could tell what was going on after a few glances. There were only 4 people fighting. Apart from the dead, there was only one person left. That person had scales. Judging from the marks on the body, this person did not look like a human being, but a beast. Lu Li's robe was nearby. Therefore, the Rue Emperor came up with a bold assumption. That beast with human nature was Lu Li. The problem was that Lu Li was a pure-blooded human being. If Lu Li was a beast that had transformed into a human being, then Lu Li must be a Saint Emperor beast to be able to hide from the Rue Emperor and so many emperors. This is strange. The Rue Emperor could not figure it out. But he could tell from the situation that Lu Li was not dead. But he was injured. Judging from the bloodstains, he could tell that Lu Li had left. Go. In any case, Emperor Rue decided to find Lu Li first. If Lu Li really was a beast in human form, then Emperor Rue would have to deal with him. He followed the trail of blood and quickly left the Witch Mountain. He scanned the area with his divine telekinesis and discovered that the trail of blood was spreading towards the south. The poisonous fog here is so powerful, but he can actually withstand it? The Rue Emperor couldn't figure it out again. He could only fly all the way to the south, but after flying for a distance, the bloodstains disappeared. That was because Lu Li's wounds had healed, and he was no longer bleeding. Judging by the bloodstains, Lu Li was heading south in a straight line. Emperor Rue didn't give it much thought and went after him quickly. By the time Emperor Rue came out from the Voodoo Mountain, Lu Li had arrived at the place mentioned by the old Taoist priest. There were 2 mountains here that looked like camels. It was easy to find. Lu Li had already used psychic power to search for the bunker. He searched but found nothing. At this moment, the blood-evil emperor transmitted his voice to him. He said, "There is a powerful illusion in the small mountain on the left of Camel Mountain. The defense formation has not been activated yet. Rush in and kill all the people inside. Don't leave anyone alive." Lu Li's eyes were filled with killing intent. He released his powerful qi and blood. Instantly, the space around him became suffocating. He sped up to the extreme and dashed into the hill in a flash. He took out a saber and released a ray of sword light toward the hill. At the same time, he took out his horn, ready to attack at any time. Boom! The hill shook and the illusion disappeared, revealing a huge manor down below. Lu Li's move destroyed many castles in the manor. Teams of warriors flew up, including 2 lords. Lu Li's psychic power locked onto one of them and said coldly, "Guan Qianqiu." This manor was a secret castle. Many families had secret castles like this. There was a lord in charge of this secret castle. Clearly, this place was important to the Guan family. The 100 warriors stationed in the castle flew up in shock at the sudden attack. Some of them were injured by Lu Li's ray of sword light. They saw a strange creature that looked like a dragon person. One of its arms was broken and the scales on its chest had fallen off. It was covered in blood. It looked like a wounded beast. Guan Qianqiu was waiting anxiously in the manor. The 3 heroes of the Demon Lake hadn't arrived yet. How come such a monster had come? He attacked as soon as he arrived? Guan Qianqiu trembled when he heard Lu Li's words. He was so familiar with the voice. Who else could it be but Lu Li? He took a closer look at Lu Li's face and then at the horn in Lu Li's hand. Soon, his pupils contracted and he shouted in surprise, "You are Lu Li?" "Yes." Lu Li sneered and said, "Guan Qianqiu, you didn't see this coming, did you? The assassins you sent out didn't kill me. Instead, I killed them. They also told me your whereabouts. Now I am here to kill you. Kill young Master Qianqiu? A cold voice came. The lord next to Guan Qianqiu sneered and said, Are you sure you can do that? Do you think you can scare people away by changing into something that is neither a human nor a ghost? This is the territory of the Guan family. Get lost or I will kill you. Patriarch Lu, kill him. Guan Qianqiu looked into Lu Li's emotionless eyes. His heart trembled. He crushed a jade talisman in his hand and then ran away to the south without looking back. Guan Qianqiu ran away? The Guan family warriors were surprised. Patriarch Lu was surprised as well. Then, he waved his hand and shouted, This man attacked our castle for no reason. Take him down. Woo woo. Lu Li blew his horn. As soon as the 100 warriors rushed over, they covered their heads and rolled away. Lu Li ignored them and rushed towards the Lord in a frenzy. This Patriarch Lu was only at the initial stage of the 6th tribulation. Lu Li was not afraid of him. Go to hell, the Patriarch bellowed. A spear appeared in his hand. The spear was burning with black flames. The Patriarch stabbed at Lu Li with a strong killing intent. Lu Li didn't dodge. He let the spear land on him. He swung his dragon tail and entangled the Lord. Bang! The spear landed on Lu Li's chest but only cracked a piece of the scales. Before the Patriarch could react, Lu Li had smashed the Lord's head with his dragon claw. How? Guan Qianqiu had flown for thousands of miles but his psychic power was still here. When he saw Patriarch Lu being killed, he was scared out of his wits. He sped up to the limit. Chapter 27:38. Guan Qianqiu was being too optimistic. The 100 warriors only managed to hold him off for the time for 2 breaths. Those warriors were all at the 5th tribulation realm, which was too weak for Lu Li. After he killed Patriarch Lu, Lu Li flew forward quickly. He took out the 7-colored glazed pagoda and threw it into the crowd. A wave of flames sprayed out, and the group of people immediately became flaming people. The flames were so strong that not even warriors at the middle stage of the 6th tribulation could stand it. They were all on fire and tumbled down. Some of the weaker ones were burnt to death right away. The others were burnt to a crisp in the time for 1 or 2 breaths. Lu Li put away the 7-colored glazed pagoda and chased after Guan Qianqiu at top speed. Guan Qianqiu had just become a lord and speed was not his forte. On the other hand, Lu Li's physical speed was comparable to a warrior at the middle stage of the 6th tribulation. Therefore, even though Guan Qianqiu had a head start, the distance between them was narrowing. Lu Li was anxious. He was not afraid that Guan Qianqiu would run away, but that there were cities nearby. What if his appearance was seen by the people in the city? Would he kill everyone in the city? That was not something he could do. He circulated his draconic chi to his wings, causing them to flap at a slightly faster rate. His speed also increased. He used his divine sense to scan Guan Qianqiu, saying, Guan Qianqiu, stop running. You can't escape. Go back to the Celestial Emperor sect with me, and you will have a chance to live. This was Lu Li's stalling tactic. As long as Guan Qianqiu was shaken, he would slow down and go back with Lu Li. Naturally, Lu Li would not take Guan Qianqiu back to the Celestial Emperor sect. Lu Li wanted to kill him directly. If Guan Qianqiu was brought back to the Celestial Emperor sect, not only would his skills be exposed, but Guan Qianqiu would be protected by the Guan family. He might be released again in a few hundred years. That was Lu Li's character. He would repay kindness with kindness and revenge with hatred. As long as he could, he would carry it out immediately. Revenge could not be delayed overnight. Guan Qianqiu was intrigued by Lu Li's words. If he went to the Celestial Emperor sect, he would have a chance to live. After all, his great-grandfather was the family patriarch of the Guan family and his father was a patriarch. The Guan family would not allow a disciple of the immediate family to be killed like this. That would tarnish the Guan family's reputation. By then, the Guan family would use all kinds of resources. Guan family would have a chance to save him. No! Guan Qianxiu calmed down soon. He looked back into Lu Li's eyes, which were filled with coldness and bloodthirst. Lu Li didn't show any mercy when he killed Patriarch Lu, which indicated that he was a decisive person. If Patriarch Lu were to fall into Lu Li's hands, he would definitely die. Lu Li had killed the 3 of the demonic lake and was injured badly. Lu Li had come here just to take him back to the Heaven Emperor sect? He took out a pill. This pill could temporarily increase his battle strength and speed by at least 2 to 3 times. There was a city 1,000,000 miles ahead. On the surface, this city had nothing to do with the Guan family, but it was actually controlled by a branch of the Guan family. He had crushed the Jade Talisman just now, so there should be experts coming over to help. Guan Qianxiu sped up. Lu Li should have been able to catch up with him soon, but now it would take him more time. 2 green lights flashed in his eyes as he released the Wind Spirit technique. Although the effect was weak from such a distance, it would still be good if he could interfere with Guan Qianxiu. After using the Wind Soul Art dozens of times, it finally showed some effect. Guan Qianxiu's speed began to slow down. Lu Li's spirit was lifted. He continued to release Wind Soul skill and sped up to catch up. Well, all of a sudden, Lu Li felt a sense of weakness in his soul. He was surprised. The first time he used the dragon transformation, he seemed to have lasted for more than half a day. How come he could not hold on after such a short time? Was it because of his wounds? It was okay if he could not hold on. What mattered was that Guan Qianxiu was not dead yet. Who knew if there were powerful warriors of the Guan family nearby? The Blood Evil Emperor had been keeping an eye on Lu Li. He sent a message at once: "You must finish the fight in the time for half an incense stick to burn. Find a safe place to hide or else you will be in big trouble." Buzzing. Lu Li took out the 7-colored glazed pagoda and kept releasing Wind Soul skill at the same time. The 7-colored glazed pagoda flew over quickly. The gate at the bottom opened. A suction force came from it, slowing Guan Qianxiu down. No. Guan Qianxiu's eyes were filled with despair. He shouted, "Lu Li, the Guan family city is nearby. Powerful warriors of the Guan family will be here soon. How dare you kill me?" His shout was so loud that it could be heard in an area with a radius of tens of thousands of miles. There were some secret forts nearby. Not all of them belonged to the Guan family, but as long as there were people, it was okay. Guan Qianxiu's intention was clear. He wanted everyone to know that if he died, it would be because of Lu Li. Lu Li went after him without saying a word. Guan Qianxiu shouted again, "Lu Li, you may be a disciple of the Celestial Emperor sect, but you cannot be so lawless. I am the young master of the Guan family. If you dare to kill me, the Guan family will not let you go. The rules of the Celestial Emperor sect will not forgive you. There are many people nearby. They will testify. You cannot hide the news." This time, Guan Qianxiu shouted even louder. In the distance there were people flying out from the mountains. Even though they didn't come over openly, they were sneaking over to gather information. Lu Li sensed that at least dozens of people were sneaking over from all sides. They must be scouts from nearby forces or people who just happened to be passing by. Lu Li put on a bitter expression. It would be hard to hide his skills. But he didn't mind it. He would kill Guan Qianxiu first. He was getting closer and closer to Guan Qianxiu. His soul of wind was getting more and more powerful. Finally, Guan Qianxiu stopped running. His eyes were filled with desperation and madness. He yelled hysterically, "Lu Li, kill me. Even if you kill me, there are many others nearby. You cannot hide the fact that you are a mutant. Ha 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 ha, a disciple of the Celestial Emperor sect, the personal disciple of Emperor Rui, is a half-orc with the bloodline of beast. This news will shock the entire endless ruins of gods. Die." Guan Qianxiu was still slandering Lu Li at the brink of death? Luli dashed over in rage. He kept releasing Soul of Wind. Guan Qianxiu could not stand it anymore. The attacks on his soul were so fierce that he couldn't even speak. Whoosh! Luli dashed over and swept Guan Qianxiu up with his tail. Luli reached out his claw and crushed Guan Qianxiu's head with psychic power. Guan Qianxiu dead. Boom! Luli grabbed Guan Qianxiu's interspatial ring and smashed the body to the ground. Then, he dashed toward the north in a blur. The weakness in his soul was growing stronger. He must find a safe place to hide or he would be in trouble when the powerful warriors of the Guan family came. What? As soon as Luli flew away, a commotion broke out. Nearly 100 people gathered nearby. They all saw how Luli killed Guan Qianxiu with psychic power. Luli's dragon wings, dragon scales, his long tail, his sharp claws, his eyes as cold as a beast's, and his qi and energy rose to the sky. All of this shocked the people nearby. The one who was killed claimed to be the young master of the Guan family. That dragon man was a disciple of the Celestial Emperor sect, the personal disciple of Emperor Rui. Chapter 2739. Not long after Luli left, more than a dozen powerful warriors of the Guan family came. There was a branch of the Guan family in a nearby city with more than a dozen lords. The powerful warriors of the Guan family knew that Guan Qianxiu was here. Just in case, Guan Qianxiu asked for a jade talisman of warning. Patriarch Lu was dead and his jade talisman of life was broken. Therefore, all the powerful warriors in the city were sent out and they flew over. They were not far away from Guan Qianxiu. They arrived shortly after Luli started to run. They found Guan Qianxiu's body. Even though his head was broken, they could recognize him. Qianxiu was killed? The more than a dozen lords were furious. Guan Qianxiu had been suppressed by the family and neglected. But he was a direct descendant of the Guan family, the great-grandson of the current Guan family patriarch. Both Guan Qianxiu's grandpa and father were important figures in the family. His death was the greatest provocation to the Guan family. Whoosh! Not far away, a warrior flew up. He had been lurking nearby and witnessed how Luli killed Guan Qianxiu. He reported what he saw to his superiors at once. Disciple of the Celestial Emperor sect? Emperor Rui's personal disciple? Someone's expressions changed. The Celestial Emperor sect was the most powerful sect in the world. Anything related to the Celestial Emperor sect should be treated with caution. If it were anyone else, they would have killed their way to the family directly. But Luli had to be careful. They couldn't go to the Celestial Emperor sect, could they? Go! The family patriarch of the Guan family shouted. We must take him down no matter what. We will tie him up and send him to the Celestial Emperor sect. We will demand an explanation from them. Let's go. Not long after Luli left, the warriors split up into groups of 3 and fanned out to the north. Luli's qi and blood were vigorous. He had just killed someone and there was a residual smell of blood on him. The warriors could track him down. Soon, they arrived at the secret fort. It was a mess. 100 warriors were burnt to ashes. Patriarch Lu's head was crushed as well. He died a miserable death. The more than a dozen powerful warriors were enraged. They didn't even have the time to collect the bodies. They continued to run to the north. Luli was still flying toward the north. He felt weaker and weaker. After hundreds of thousands of miles, he felt he could no longer fly. He scanned his surroundings with his divine telekinesis and randomly found a cave in a large mountain before rushing in. Blood Fairy, arrange the divine runes, Luli said and then passed out. The dragon's scales on his body disappeared as well. His wings, horns, tail and claws were all gone. He turned back into a naked, weak young man who seemed to have been humiliated. His appearance was extremely indecent. Blood Fairy began laying out divine runes, but it took time. After the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, the sound of breaking came from behind. The Blood Evil Emperor's voice sounded, "Oh no! The experts of the Guan family are coming." The Blood Evil Emperor was only left with a wisp of remnant soul. If he hadn't died, even 3 to 5 great emperors would have been able to kill him easily, let alone these lords. Right now, he was only left with a remnant soul. Although he still had his battle prowess, if he were to use his full strength, he might not be able to kill these people. However, his soul power would definitely be completely exhausted. There's no other way. The Blood Evil Emperor sighed. If Luli were to die, then his remnant soul would dissipate as well. The Blood Evil Emperor would have to risk his life. If there were only 3 to 5 overlords, he was confident that he could kill them all. However, if there were a few quasi-emperors, then there was nothing he could do. Over here. In the distance, a lord locked onto Luli with psychic power and let out a long howl. Then, lords from all directions began to gather over. They had followed the smell of blood to this place. However, there were no dragon scales, wings or tail on Luli's body. Instead, he was naked. And he was in a coma? It should be him. A lord took a look and said, "His arm is broken and there is blood on his hand. He is in a coma. I don't think he can sustain the transformation for a long time. It is him. Let's take him down." More than a dozen lords came over. Their family patriarch waved his hand and one of them dashed over. He dashed over to Luli, made a fist and punched at Luli's abdomen. He wanted to shatter Luli's pellet first so that he would be disabled. Luli had killed Patriarch Lu and Guan Qianqiu. According to the scout, Guan Qianqiu was killed in an instant. Therefore, the lord had to be careful. Buzzing, a shadow suddenly appeared from within Luli's body. Then, the shadow flashed and disappeared into the lord's body. Then, the lord's eyes rolled over and he suddenly fell to the ground. Boom! The lord fell to the ground. His eyes were bulging. Gradually, he stopped breathing. His eyes were filled with fear. He died with everlasting regret. Brother 14. What? How? The more than a dozen lords in the sky were wide-eyed. They could not believe their eyes and were filled with anger. This lord was not weak. He was at the middle stage of the sixth tribulation. How could he be killed in an instant? More importantly, Luli did not move at all. He seemed to be in a coma. He was still in a coma. Luli's divine energy and soul energy did not fluctuate. Nobody knew how this lord died. Kill him! The lord of a branch was enraged. At the moment, he no longer cared about the fact that Luli was a disciple of the Celestial Emperor sect. Luli had killed their lord right in front of them. They couldn't care less. Even if Luli was a disciple of the Celestial Emperor sect, they would deal with it later. Buzzing. They mobilized divine energy and took out their weapons. Luli's moves were so strange that they dared not to get close. They had to kill Luli from a distance. It is over, the Blood Evil Emperor sighed. He could not stand the continuous attacks from more than a dozen lords. If there were only 3 or 5 lords, he could take the initiative and kill them all. But there were so many lords, and the family patriarch of the branch was very close to the quasi-emperor realm. The Blood Evil Emperor would be smashed apart even if he dashed out. Boom, 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 the hill was flattened in an instant. The Blood Evil Emperor tried his best to build a shield to protect Luli. The Blood Evil King's shield was strong, but it could not withstand such a powerful attack. The shield was torn apart and Luli was badly mutilated. Fortunately, Luli's body was strong. With the shield of the Blood Evil Emperor, he was not killed. But his injuries were serious. After a round of attacks, they realized that Luli was still alive. They looked at each other, speechless. Was he a disciple of the Celestial Emperor sect? Was he not a patriarch of the Celestial Emperor sect? Go on. The family patriarch of the branch made up his mind. He yelled and called for more attacks. The Blood Evil Emperor lost all hope. He felt aggrieved. If he were not a remnant soul, it would be so easy for him to kill these lords. Swish, swish, more than a dozen attacks whooshed on. When they were about to hit Lu Li, the space in front of him began to tremble. Then a man showed up. He was wearing a cyan robe, like an elegant scholar. With a wave of his hand, an invisible ripple spread out. The attacks of the more than a dozen were all shattered. Emperor Rui, the family patriarch of the branch, yelled in surprise. The Guan family were all familiar with the emperor of the Celestial Emperor sect. This man was once a famous, powerful warrior. How could they not know him? Chapter 2740. Ever since the Rui Emperor joined the Heavenly Emperor sect, he practically vanished without a trace and kept a very low profile. He didn't want to be in the limelight and rarely fought. Therefore, the Rui Emperor's reputation in the endless ruins of gods had weakened a lot over the years. But at this moment, Emperor Rui's casual words made the Guan family feel his domineering and insolence. It wasn't scary when the lion was napping, but once the lion showed its might, the domineering aura of the King of Beasts was enough to make ordinary beasts tremble in fear. The Guan clan was a prestigious clan, and it was a prestigious clan of the Heaven Emperor dynasty. The Guan clan had produced many experts in the past, and there was even an old Guan emperor who was a famous great emperor in the Heaven Emperor sect. However, the Guan clan wasn't part of the Heavenly Emperor sect's inner circle. At the end of the day, their status was similar to the Heavenly Emperor sect's vassal clans. If Emperor Rui really hardened his heart to act, even if he didn't destroy the Guan family, he could at least greatly damage the Guan family. It wasn't that the Guan clan didn't have any great emperors. They still had 3 great emperors. However, everyone felt that if the Rui Emperor were to make a move, these 3 great emperors might not be able to stop him. This was a powerhouse who had fought against more than a dozen big clans by himself. He was a god of death who had walked out of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. If he retracted his aura, people might unconsciously ignore him. Once he drew his sword, that aura could scare ordinary people to death. Some of the lords of the Guan family were frightened, and they felt their bodies turn cold. They couldn't even muster the will to resist. If the Rui Emperor wanted to make a move, they wouldn't even have the courage to do so. The patriarch of the Guan clan's branch, Guan Yun, was quite a character. His face revealed a trace of shame, anger, and grievance. He gritted his teeth and said, "Emperor Rui, even though you are a big shot of the Heavenly Emperor sect and your combat power is unparalleled, you can't bully people like this, right? Your family's disciple killed 100 soldiers and an elder of our Guan clan. He even killed our direct descendant, Guan Qianqiu, in front of everyone. Could it be that only your disciples are allowed to set fires, but we're not allowed to light lamps? Could it be that your disciple wants to exterminate the entire Guan family, and we can only wait for him to kill us? There is no such logic in this world, right? Lu Li killed Guan Qianqiu and your patriarch?" The Rui Emperor was taken aback. How could Lu Li be so vigorous? Wasn't this just like how he was back then? Also, why was his battle prowess so strong? Killing Guan Qianqiu was nothing. The 3 overlords in the ancestral dragon realm were at least mid-stage overlords. The corpse beside him was also very strong. Guan Changhe. Guan Yun waved his hand and a lord flew away. In the time for 2 incense sticks to burn, he came back with a man. It was the scout of the Guan family who witnessed Lu Li killing Guan Qianqiu. Guan Changhe's spatial ring flashed, and 102 corpses appeared on the ground. Guan Changhe pointed at the scout and said, "Report everything you saw to the Rui Emperor." The scout nervously swallowed his saliva, then recounted what Guan Qianqiu had shouted and what he had seen. In the end, he added, "There were at least 100 people who saw this. If the Rui Emperor needs them, we can find those people. And I reckon that once this matter spreads, it will spread throughout the Sky Emperor dynasty very quickly." Guan Yun angrily said, "That's what happened. We received Guan Qianqiu's jade talisman and immediately rushed here, chasing him all the way here. Brother 14 of our family tried to capture him, but he was killed instantly. We had no choice but to kill him. Emperor Rui, I want to ask, where did we go wrong? If you still need an explanation, then kill us all." The Rui Emperor said nothing. After a while, he waved his hand and said, "Lu Li is in a coma. What you said is only a one-sided story. I will not side with him. I will bring him back to the Celestial Emperor sect. Send a message to your family patriarch. Go to the Hall of Penalty and find out who is right and who is wrong. If it is Lu Li's fault, the Celestial Emperor sect will give you an explanation." Okay. Since the Rui Emperor had already said so, Guan Yun and the others didn't dare to say anything else. One of them flew over and collected Old 14's corpse, then Guan Qianqiu and the others' corpses, and the group quickly flew towards the city. "Lu Li, if you can't give me a reasonable explanation when you wake up, I will not be able to save you." The Rui Emperor sighed and flew away with Lu Li. Lu Li was in a coma and he seemed to be very weak. The Rui Emperor was afraid to open the portal. He had to take Lu Li to the city in the north and then teleport back. The news spread out quickly. The nearly 100 people saw how Lu Li killed Guan Qianqiu and heard Guan Qianqiu's last roar. More importantly, Guan Qianqiu said, "Lu Li was a human disguised as a beast. A disciple of the Celestial Emperor sect, the personal disciple of the Rui Emperor, was a beast in disguise?" The news was so shocking that it spread out quickly. By the time the Rui Emperor brought Lu Li back to the Celestial Emperor sect, the news had spread out. The Rui Emperor had just settled Lu Li down and told Wang Ningxue to tend to his wounds when someone from the Hall of Penalty came to take Lu Li away. The Rui Emperor stopped them and told the Hall of Penalty that Lu Li could not leave. He was in a coma, and when he woke up, the Rui Emperor would take him to the Hall of Penalty in person. The Rui Emperor also asked the Hall of Penalty to invite the Guan family patriarch over and ask the Hall of Information to investigate. The Celestial Emperor dynasty and the nearby dynasties were in a heated discussion. Everyone was talking about this. The Celestial Emperor sect had to send out a notice that they were investigating and would give a fair and just result. The Guan family patriarch was furious, but he did not come to the Celestial Emperor sect at once. Instead, he mobilized all his connections to form a public opinion. At the same time, he used all the resources in the Celestial Emperor sect. This time, he must kill Lu Li even if the Rui Emperor wanted to protect Lu Li. If Lu Li could stay alive, the Guan family would be disgraced. How could a noble family develop and grow when it was disgraced? If anyone could kill a disciple of the Guan family, then in the future, the Guan family would be trampled on. Wang Ningxue and Hu Shimeng were shocked. Lu Li was cultivating in a secluded place. How could something happen? He killed Guan Qianqiu and 2 patriarchs of the Guan family? Had Lu Li lost his mind? How could Lu Li be so powerful? Also, why was there a rumor that Lu Li was a beast? How could a perfectly fine human be a vicious beast? Lu Li was injured and it was Wang Ningxue who treated him. Wang Ningxue checked. Lu Li was no different from a human being. Why was he said to be an orc? They could not figure it out, but they still used their connections to fight for Lu Li. At the very least, they hoped that Lu Li would not be sentenced to death. For one thing, it would damage the reputation of the Celestial Emperor sect. For another, Lu Li had killed a disciple of the Guan family. If Lu Li killed a disciple of the Guan family for no reason, it would be against the rules of the Celestial Emperor sect. Lu Li woke up after 3 days of sleep. He noticed that his arm had grown back and his wounds were healed. He felt comfortable. He opened his eyes and looked around. He was back in the Rui castle. Had the Rui Emperor come? He had brought Lu Li back. Whoosh! Wang Ningxue had been waiting outside. As soon as Lu Li woke up, she rushed in and asked, "Lu Li, you are awake? Why did you kill Guan Qianqiu? You have made a big mistake. The Hall of Penal Laws has come several times, but my master has stopped them. Chapter 2741. If it is not going to collapse, then go to the Hall of Punishments. A voice came. Emperor Rui had walked in. He looked at Lu Li and said, "If this is your fault, I will not side with you." Lu Li stood up, cupped his fists and said, "Master, I am wrong. But they are the ones at fault. I believe the Hall of Punishments of the Celestial Emperor sect is reasonable. I am not afraid." Of course the Hall of Punishments is reasonable. Emperor Rui nodded. "If you are so confident, then let's go. The family patriarch of the Guan family has been here since yesterday. He is waiting for you." Lu Li nodded and left with Emperor Rui. Wang Ningxue followed him. As soon as they were outside, many people checked with psychic power. After all, the entire Endless Ruins had learned about this. An important person from the Celestial Emperor sect was enraged and stated that he would investigate thoroughly. Emperor Rui led the three of them to the Hall of Punishments. Many disciples had come to join in the fun. Of course, there were many things to cheer for example, the Guan family or Lu Li, Hu Shimeng and the others were here as well. They looked at Lu Li with concern. Lu Li nodded to them. Many patriarchs of the Guan family had come as well, glaring at Lu Li. Lu Li followed Emperor Rui into the Hall of Punishments calmly. The Hall of Punishments was spacious with 10 warriors standing in it. 3 of them were at the Great Emperor realm. One of them was Emperor Heng, but Lu Li did not recognize the other 2. On the left sat a dignified old man. Clearly, he was also at the Great Emperor realm. When he saw Lu Li coming in, the undisguised killing intent in his eyes made Lu Li shiver. Family patriarch of the Guan family. Lu Li was more confident now. Apart from Emperor Heng, the other 2 Great Emperor realm warriors were also glaring at him coldly. They must be the helpers invited by the Guan family. In the middle of them sat an emperor semi-emperor. He must be the master of the Hall of Punishments. He stood up, cupped his fists, and said with a bitter smile, "Emperor Rui, we have been waiting for you for a long time." Emperor Rui cupped his fists to the other great emperors and said apologetically, "I am sorry. My disciple has just woken up. I will bring him to the Hall of Punishments at once. You may begin." After the Rui Emperor finished speaking, he walked to a chair at the side and sat down. Wang Ningxue didn't even enter. This place wasn't a place that ordinary people could casually enter. Lu Li bowed at once and said, "Greetings, lords. I am Lu Li." The Hall Master of Penalty Hall, Fang Wen, looked at Lu Li seriously and said, "Lu Li, do you know your crime?" Lu Li cupped his fists and said calmly, "Patriarch, I don't know what crime I have committed." "How dare you?" Fang Wen's expression turned stern as he said angrily, "You killed an elder and a disciple of the Guan clan, and you even killed Guan Qianqiu. Are you going to deny this?" "I made these." Lu Li answered frankly, "A patriarch of the Guan family and Guan Qianqiu were killed by me." Wow, many disciples outside were in an uproar. The rumor was so ferocious, but many people didn't believe it. Now that Lu Li had admitted it in public, it naturally caused a sensation. Wang Ningxue and Hu Shimeng looked at each other. Their hearts were weighed down. Lu Li had admitted it in public. There was no turning back now. It seemed that Lu Li could not escape from this. "Since you have killed someone, why don't you admit your crime?" Fang Wen was a bit angry. As the Hall Master of Penalty Hall, Lu Li was already intimidating. When he was angry, he was even more intimidating. "I have killed someone, but I will not admit my crime," Lu Li said stubbornly like a stubborn child. He cupped his fists and said, "Patriarch, lords, if someone wants to kill me, should I fight back? The Guan family tried to kill me first. Can't I fight back? Should I, as a disciple of the Heaven Emperor sect, submit to adversity? Should I let others kill me?" A glint of coldness rose in Guan family patriarch's eyes. There was another round of discussion outside. The several emperors looked at each other as well. "Lu Li, please be responsible for what you have said," Fang Wen shouted coldly. When did the Guan family try to kill you? Do you have any proof? Proof? Lu Li turned to Emperor Rui and said, Master, have you been to the ancestral dragon realm? There are 3 dead lords there. Did you see them? Emperor Rui didn't communicate with Lu Li at all. He answered with a straight face, Yes. I set up some runes there. I will know when someone goes in. Also, you crushed the jade talisman I gave you. Therefore, I opened a portal and went there at once. I did find 3 dead bodies in the ancestral dragon realm. They were warriors from the 6th tribulation. Lu Li cupped his fists to Emperor Rui and said, I was cultivating in the ancestral dragon realm when I was ambushed by 3 lords. They said in person that Guan Qianqiu ordered them to kill me. They also told me where Guan Qianqiu was. I was almost killed by them. How can I not get back at them? The Hall of Penalty didn't say that I can't retaliate if someone wants to kill me. The Hall of Penalty was silent. However, it was noisy outside again. Guan Qianqiu ordered someone to kill Lu Li. How bold was Guan Qianqiu? How dare he kill a disciple of the Heaven Emperor sect? This was the greatest provocation to the Heaven Emperor sect. Guan Shangyue, the family patriarch of the Guan family, said, You said that Guan Qianqiu ordered those 3. Do you have any proof? I don't. Lu Li answered without hesitation, When I killed those 3, I didn't record it. I was so furious that I didn't think about it. But I want to ask you, Lord. Would I frame Guan Qianqiu for no reason? Would I go to the Guan family for no reason? Who can say for sure? Guan Shangyue said with a cold smile, What if you take the opportunity to make trouble? Ha ha ha. Lu Li laughed and said, Even if I did, how would I know that there is a secret fort of the Guan family nearby? My master knows. It is the first time I have been there. I don't even know where it is. Also, why did Guan Qianqiu happen to be in a secret fort nearby? Wasn't he taken back to the Guan Emperor city? Emperor Rui nodded and said, I can testify to this. I opened the portal and took Lu Li there to cultivate. I don't think Lu Li knows about Mount Voodoo. I took him to the ancestral dragon realm from Mount Voodoo. Then I laid down some runes. I can prove that Lu Li cultivated in there for several years and never came out. Emperor Rui would not lie. Therefore, one thing was certain. Lu Li didn't know about the secret fort of the Guan family nearby, and he didn't know Guan Qianqiu was in there. He got this information from Guan Qianqiu after he killed the 3 assassins. Guan Shangyue pulled a long face. He was here to make trouble. Now, he seemed to be going to the Heaven Emperor sect to punish the Guan family. After a pause, Guan Shangyue said, Either way, you can't deny the fact that you killed a patriarch of the Guan family and Guan Qianqiu. Please, Heaven Emperor sect, give us an explanation. Also, it is said that Lu Li became an orc. Many people saw him do that. I hope the Heaven Emperor sect will look into this. Either way. Chapter 2742. The Guan family had an old Emperor Guan who used to be a famous powerful warrior of the Celestial Emperor sect. He was on good terms with the other emperors of the Celestial Emperor sect and offered some help. This time, the Guan family used these connections. They had to kill Lu Li to preserve the Guan family's reputation. Otherwise, the Guan family would have a hard time in the future. Lu Li's mind was weighed down by the fact that the emperors were speaking for him. He cupped his fists and said, Lords, as I said, I admit that I killed Guan Qianqiu and the patriarchs of the Guan family. What I want to say is, can anyone bully the disciples of the Celestial Emperor sect? Can anyone assassinate them? If they are dead, there is nothing to say. But if they are still alive, can't I get back at the murderer? Do I have to report it to the higher-ups and get permission from the sect before I can get revenge? What if the sect doesn't agree? Then I can't get revenge, right? Am I being bullied for no reason? Not long after I joined the sect, I went to another place to cultivate. I don't know the unspoken rules of the sect. I used to repay kindness with kindness. I would kill anyone that tried to kill me. I don't care if it was the Liu family or the Guan family. If the seniors of the sect ask me to do something, I will not fight back when people are insulting me or beating me up. I will never leave the Celestial Emperor sect. What if I am bullied or killed? Where can I go? Lu Li's words were spoken out of anger. What he was implying was clear. The Celestial Emperor sect, as the most powerful sect in the world, would not help its disciples when their disciples were bullied, but outsiders, the disciples of the Celestial Emperor sect, were in a heated discussion. If disciples of the most powerful sect in the world were living in cowardice like Lu Li said, then what would be the prestige of the most powerful sect in the world? As disciples of the Celestial Emperor sect, what was the difference between them and a small sect? How dare you? Before the other emperors and Fang Wen could say anything, Emperor Rui had lost his temper. He slammed the table and stood up in anger. Lu Li, how can you talk to your seniors like this? Apologize. Lu Li cupped his fists in front of his chest and said with a wronged expression, Dear elders, I spoke out of anger. Please forgive me. Emperor Rui and Lu Li echoed each other. The disciples outside were talking about it, which made the two emperors in the room feel awkward. It was a fact that Lu Li was assassinated. Lu Li killed 3 assassins and found out that the mastermind was Guan Qianqiu. This should be a fact as well. In other words, Guan Qianqiu's audacity to hire assassins to kill a Celestial Emperor sect disciple was a provocation to the Celestial Emperor sect. There were so many disciples outside. If the sect didn't back up their disciples and instead helped outsiders, it would disappoint the hearts of the Heavenly Emperor sect's disciples. Guan Shanyue's face was clouded by the gloomy expressions of the two emperors. After a while, Guan Shanyue said again, Guys, according to what many people saw that day, Lu Li has become a beast. A disciple of the Heaven Emperor sect is a beast. Shouldn't you give an explanation to everyone in the endless ruins of divinity? Emperor Rui said nothing. But Emperor Heng snorted and said, Family leader Guan, this is an internal affair of the Celestial Emperor sect. Do not meddle in our affairs again and again. If Lu Li really is a beast, we will deal with him. You don't have to worry. Emperor Rui turned to Lu Li and asked, What is going on? Tell me. This is a skill I have mastered, called Dragon Transformation. Lu Li didn't hide anything. After all, the news had spread. He explained, Master, I was cultivating my body in the pool of Ancestral Dragon, but I accidentally absorbed all the blood. I learned a skill contained in the blood of Ancestral Dragon. I can show it to you right now. You are all powerful warriors. You can tell right away. Okay. Show us. Emperor Rui nodded. Lu Li mobilized the dragon qi in his acupoints at once. Following that, a horrifying surge of qi and blood surged out of his body. His robe burst open and scales grew out of his body. Then came the dragon tail, wings, horns and claws. Lu Li had become a dragon man. What? Another commotion broke out. Lu Li's energy was horrifying. He gave people the feeling that he was a ferocious beast. The warriors of the great Emperor realm were surprised. They had been checking the changes in Lu Li's body. When he used the dragon transformation, nothing could escape their notice. Emperor Heng was the first to say, This is a skill, no doubt about it. Lu Li is not a beast. Lu Li, you can deactivate this skill now. Everyone here was powerful. Lu Li's change could not escape their notice. This was a skill, not Lu Li's transformation from a ferocious beast. If they couldn't even tell this apart, then they were all blind. Lu Li forced a smile and said, Emperor Heng, I have just learned this skill and I haven't learned how to deactivate it. If it were not for this skill, I would have been killed by the 3 assassins. They are at the middle stage of the Lord's realm. Let me help you. The Rui Emperor moved and slapped on Lu Li's back, forcing the dragon energy in Lu Li's body into his acupoints. The dragon scales over Lu Li's body disappeared. His wings and tail were gone. Lu Li was naked. There were many female disciples outside and Wang Ningxue was here. They looked away, blushing. Luckily, the Rui Emperor released a shield to cover Lu Li up. Otherwise, Lu Li would have been exposed to everyone. Lu Li put on his robe quickly. Even though he had only used the dragon transformation, he was much weaker. He seemed to be a patient who had just recovered from a serious illness. Fang Wen did not know how to decide. He could not afford to offend either side. On one side, it was Emperor Rui and Emperor Heng. On the other side, it was the Guan family patriarch and the two emperors he was on good terms with. If Lu Li said he was wrong, then he was wrong. If he said he was right, then he could be justified. If he said it was a light judgment, then Guan Shangyue would not be happy. If he said it was a heavy judgment, then Emperor Rui and Emperor Heng would not be happy. Fang Wen was in a dilemma. All right, Guan Shangyue said again. Let's take a step back. Let's say that Guan Qianqiu instigated this, and you killed Guan Qianqiu. But what about Patriarch Lu and the 100 warriors? What did they do wrong? You could have hurt them if you wanted to. Why did you kill them? As long as you can provide evidence, the Guan family will not cover up for Guan Qianqiu. We will give you and the Celestial Emperor sect an explanation. But you killed him. This is the greatest provocation to the Guan family. Guan Shangyue was relentless. He had no other way out. Without a dignified way out, the Guan family would be disgraced. He had to be aggressive and hope that the Celestial Emperor sect could give him an explanation and a way out. Emperor Rui and Emperor Heng said nothing. They could not say more for Lu Li. After all, Lu Li had crossed the line. If Lu Li had evidence, for example, leaving one assassin alive, they would not let it go. Guan Qianqiu would not be able to escape death. But Lu Li had taken the risk. He had slapped the Guan family in the face. Provocation. Right at that moment, a cold voice came from outside. As soon as the voice came out, a man appeared out of nowhere next to Lu Li. It was an old man in a black robe. He did not have a strong qi and energy, but his eyes gave people the feeling that they were as deep as the sea, unfathomable. Looking at Guan Shangyue, he said, I think the Guan family is provoking the Celestial Emperor sect. How dare you assassinate disciples of the Celestial Emperor sect? You Guan clan people are really daring. Guan Shangyue, if I do not give you an explanation, will the Guan family go on with the assassination? Until all the disciples of the Celestial Emperor sect are killed? Chapter 2743. There was nothing special about the black-robed old man. He was old-fashioned and serious, like a mean old man. That being said, his serious and bitter face was like that of the King of Hell in many people's eyes. Lord Li, King of Hell. He was the supervisor of the Celestial Emperor sect, one of the 10 most powerful people in the Celestial Emperor sect. To a certain extent, he could represent the Celestial Emperor sect. His words were the will of the entire Celestial Emperor sect. Lord Li's responsibility was to supervise the entire Celestial Emperor sect. This was not something he should be involved in. Normally, he would not show up. But today, of all people, he showed up. As soon as he showed up, he was on Lu Li's side. His words were arrogant and he didn't show any respect. It was as if the Guan family was not a wealthy family and had nothing to do with the Celestial Emperor sect. If it were someone else, such as Emperor Rui or Emperor Heng, no one would take it seriously. However, Lord Li was different. His words caused the atmosphere to freeze. Many people did not even dare to breathe loudly. That being said, the disciples of the Celestial Emperor sect were thrilled. Lord Li's assertiveness made them feel proud to be disciples of the Celestial Emperor sect and the dominance of the most powerful sect in the world. So what if he was trying to bully you? Would you dare to say no? Guan Shangyue did not. Lord Li represented the will of the Celestial Emperor sect. If he dared to argue with Lord Li, he would be arguing with the Celestial Emperor sect. Guan Shanyue took a deep breath, cupped his fists and said, Lord Li, I will not have the guts to provoke the Celestial Emperor sect, not to mention murder a disciple of the Celestial Emperor sect. Lord Li, if you think the Guan family is in the wrong, then we will admit it and we will not say anything more. Guan Shanyue chickened out quickly. Fighting against Lord Li and the others would be impossible unless the Guan family wanted to be wiped out. Lord Li was a sword in the hand of the master of the Celestial Emperor sect. Sometimes, he represented the will of the master. Not even the 17 major sects dared to ask Lord Li, let alone a small Guan family. Therefore, he had to chicken out and pretend to be wronged. He allowed Lord Li to bully him and pretended that he would not fight back. Greetings, Lord. Emperor Rui and the others stood up and bowed. Lord Li waved his hand and said to Guan Shanyue, You don't look. Xiao. 2 black-clothed men quickly came in, bringing in a woman. It was a young woman with disheveled hair. Her eyes were filled with fear. Her face was originally very beautiful, but at this moment it was pale, and her delicate body was trembling. Sister Yun. Wang Ningxue, who was outside, exclaimed in shock. Ji Yun was actually taken down. What did she do? Her eyes turned and soon anger appeared in her eyes. A few days ago, an important person from the intelligence department of the Celestial Emperor sect talked to her and asked if she had leaked Lu Li's whereabouts. She said she had told Ji Yun. At that time, she vaguely felt that something was wrong, but she didn't expect that it was really this close friend of hers who leaked the information. Lord Li didn't even look at Ji Yun. He just waved his hand coldly and said to the person with Ji Yun, Speak. It's Guan Qianxiu, Guan Qianxiu. Ji Yun's mouth was trembling. She stammered, Guan Qianxiu asked me to gather information about Lu Li. He gave me 3 tribulation pellets and asked me to go to Ningxue and ask about Lu Li. I know I am wrong. I will give you the tribulation pellet. Don't kill me. I didn't know that Guan Qianxiu was going to kill Lu Li. Ji Yun's ring glowed as she took out the 3 tribulation pellet. Then, she knelt on the ground and kept kowtowing in fear. Lord Li still didn't look at her. He waved his hand and the black-clothed man took Ji Yun away. He looked at Guan Shanyue coldly and said, Guan Qianxiu hired assassins. There is no doubt about this. A disciple of the Guan family hired assassins to kill a disciple of the Celestial Emperor sect, and our disciple killed Guan Qianxiu. I want to ask family leader Guan, is he wrong? Can you accept it when a disciple of the Celestial Emperor sect assassinates a disciple of the Guan family? Can we go to the Guan family and ask for an explanation? Lord Li's words were still domineering and overbearing. He didn't show any respect to Guan Shanyue. Guan Shanyue pulled a long face, but he didn't dare to say anything back. He cupped his fists and said, Lord Li, Guan Qianxiu is in the wrong. He is dead. I think we should just let it go. Of course, if Lord Li wants to pursue the responsibility of the Guan family, we will have to accept it. Don't act like you are wronged. Lord Li still didn't show any respect. He said coldly, A disciple of your family assassinated a disciple of the Celestial Emperor sect. He was killed by our disciple because he was not strong enough. How dare you come here and ask for an explanation? Do you think the Celestial Emperor sect is so easy to bully? We will investigate this thoroughly. If there are others involved in the scheme, we will not let any of them go. Family leader Guan, please. Guan Shanyue's face was rubbed against the ground by Lord Li again and again, but he didn't dare to say anything. He had to leave with a sullen face and a raging heart. After Guan Shanyue left, the disciples outside burst into cheers. Lord Li's protective attitude made all the disciples feel better about this king of Hell. The most powerful sect in the world had its own pride. As disciples of the Celestial Emperor sect, they had their own pride as well. If anyone could bully them, then what was the point of joining the Celestial Emperor sect? The most powerful sect must be domineering. They wouldn't bully others, but if anyone did, they must seek revenge. Luli had done a good job. He had raised the prestige of the Celestial Emperor sect. Lordly had done even better. All the disciples felt proud and satisfied. That's all. After Guan Shanhui left, Lordly said, "Now, let's talk about you, Luli. I can protect you from outsiders, but you must follow the rules of the sect. But you are still in the wrong. You should have reported to the sect as soon as something like this happened. You shouldn't have acted on your own. This has affected the sect badly. We must look into it. Fangwen, I personally suggest that he be locked up in the Celestial Emperor Sword formation. Let him out when he can pass the 15th level. What do you think?" Celestial Emperor Sword formation? The people outside were in an uproar. The Celestial Emperor Sword formation was a place for assessment. Anyone who could pass the 15th level would be a black badge disciple. Luli had just become an official disciple, and he was going to be locked up here? If he couldn't pass the 15th level in 10,000 years, wouldn't he be locked up for another 10,000 years? Wait a minute. Many people suddenly remembered something. Didn't Luli kill Guan Qianqiu and the lord of the Guan family? And those 3 assassins were lords as well? Did that mean that Luli's combat power was already above that of an average lord? Then, it shouldn't take him too long to pass the 15th level, right? I don't think 15 is enough. The Rui Emperor suddenly said, "This punk is out of control. He should be severely punished so that he can reflect on himself. Didn't Gu Jian pass the 18th level? I think 18 is better." Chapter 2744. A huge incident that caused a huge uproar in the endless ruins of gods came to an end under Lord Li's forceful suppression. The Celestial Emperor sect made an announcement as well, confirming that Lu Li's dragonification was just a skill and that he was not an orc. As for Lu Li's attempt on Guan Qianqiu's life, the notice also stated that it was Guan Qianqiu who hired assassins to kill Lu Li. Lu Li retaliated out of anger. The Celestial Emperor sect sentenced Lu Li to confinement. The announcement was very simple. He didn't even mention the Guan family. Not mentioning them was actually a kind of attitude. The Celestial Emperor sect's disciples were only injured, but so many members of the Guan clan had died. The announcement didn't express any apology to the Guan clan, and this itself was enough to show the Celestial Emperor sect's attitude. The Guan family didn't make any announcement either. They had no choice but to accept the fact that a few of their people had died in vain. After all, it was Guan Qianqiu who tried to assassinate Lu Li first. The Guan family had found some clues which proved that Guan Qianqiu was the mastermind. Moreover, this incident caused the Celestial Emperor sect to have a bad impression of the Guan clan. Originally, the Guan clan and the Celestial Emperor sect had a good relationship. But because of this incident, the higher-ups of the Celestial Emperor sect probably had a bad impression of the Guan clan. The influence that the old past emperor had painstakingly built up in the past would be greatly weakened this time. The endless ruins of divinity quieted down because of the announcement from the Celestial sect. The fact that Lu Li was not a ferocious beast had diminished the significance of the news. It was just a fight between young masters. The Guan family had lifted a stone and smashed it on their own feet. There was not much to discuss. Of course, the name of Lu Li rose to fame in the endless ruins of gods. After all, he was a disciple that had just joined the sect. He could kill the 3 heroes of the Demon Lake on his own, and then went to kill the warriors of the Guan family. His courage and boldness, as well as his character, were naturally remembered by many people. Female sage sects Nan Ling and Xiang Linglong also received the news. After all, they were the outstanding talents of the female sage sect's outer sect's younger generation. This kind of news was easy to obtain. Many disciples of the Saintess sect had been talking about it recently. When the 2 of them got the news, they were both worried and gratified. They were worried that Lu Li would be punished by the Heaven Emperor sect, and that the Guan family would seek revenge. They were glad that Lu Li's abilities had improved so fast that he could kill warriors of the middle stage of the Lord Realm. His abilities were much stronger than theirs. Divine ability? Become a Draconian. Why is it so similar to the Dragon Rebel clan's Dragon Rebel transformation? Lu Ling, on the other hand, was concerned about something else. Lu Li had become a dragon warrior? According to the information they received, this appearance was very similar to the Dragon Rebel clan's inverse dragon change. Was Lu Li a member of the Dragon Rebel race? Awakened the inverse dragon bloodline? Lu Li said he was her brother. Could he be her biological brother? Lu Ling had reached the Lord Realm. As a matter of fact, she could undo the seal on her memory. If that was not possible, she could ask powerful warriors from the Holy Lady sect to do it. However, she did not do so. If she undid the seal, it would affect her Tao heart. She would understand many things that she might not want to understand. Now that they were in the endless divine ruins and had not returned to the third heaven, there was no need to break the seal and affect her Tao heart. What she had to do now was to improve her abilities and find a way to go back to the third heaven with Lu Li. Lu Li is that powerful? A man was sitting in a luxurious palace on a mountain in the east of the endless ruins of gods. What Lu Li didn't know was that there was another person who was paying close attention to him, Dong Yang. Dong Yang was from a sect called the Fuyao sect, one of the 18 sects in the endless ruins of gods and one of the top. Dong Yang and young Master Yang joined this sect. Relying on his powerful force, Dong Yang soon became the leader of the young generation of the Fuyao sect. As far as Dong Yang was concerned, Lu Li was his rival in love. If he had the chance, he would kill Lu Li. He had asked someone to look into the whereabouts of Lu Li and Lu Ling. Little did he know that Lu Li had risen to fame all of a sudden. He had become a disciple of the Celestial Emperor sect, and he had made such a scene. The Celestial Emperor sect. Dong Yang regretted. He should have gone to the Celestial Emperor sect as well. Back then, he thought it was too far away. He wanted to join a sect as soon as possible and find a way back to the third heaven. Therefore, he found a sect nearby and joined it. Lu Li, I will surpass you. A glint of coldness rose in Dong Yang's eyes. Even in the endless ruins of gods, Dong Yang could rise and become the most powerful warrior of the young generation. He must have Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong. His pride and dignity would not be trampled on. The Holy Lady sect. He had found out about Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong. He also learned about the situation of the Holy Lady sect. He was waiting for a chance to make a name for himself, and then he would go to the Holy Lady sect to ask for Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong's hand in marriage. He believed that as long as he could show his value, the Holy Lady sect would try to win him over. 2 external disciples were nothing for the Holy Lady sect. As long as he was valuable enough, he could marry any excellent disciples of the Holy Lady sect, let alone 2 female disciples. I must cultivate and improve my abilities. I must find a chance to be apprenticed to the Master or Empress Luan. As long as I can become the apprentice of the Master or Empress Luan, my status will rise. The Holy Lady sect will try to win me over. Dong Yang's eyes glowed. There were 2 saint kings in the Fuyao sect. If he could become the apprentice of one of them, the possibility of him reaching the great emperor level would be very high. His status would rise as well. By then, asking for Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong's hand in marriage would be a piece of cake. There were beautiful disciples in the Fuyao sect. Many young ladies from other families were trying to flirt with him. Some great emperor families even had the intention of forming a marriage alliance with him. But Dong Yang turned all of them down. To him, the endless ruins of divinity was just a relay station. They must go back to the third heaven. He had a strong obsession, which was to get Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong. On the other hand, young Master Yang, who was with him, had fallen into a trance. He had hooked up with several young ladies, and had become a famous playboy of the young generation of the Fuyao sect. Luli knew nothing about all the commotion outside. He went back to the Rue castle. The Hall of Discipline told him to come back and prepare for the Heaven Emperor sword formation in a couple of days. He was not allowed to leave until he had passed the 18 levels. Luli had heard about the Heaven Emperor sword formation before. It was a horrifying place, and it was the place for the sect's assessment. If he could pass the 15 levels, he would be a black badge disciple. If he could pass the 20 levels, he would become a patriarch directly. The patriarchs of the Heaven Emperor sect were all quasi-emperors. If he could pass the 20 levels, he would be as strong as a quasi-emperor. The rules of the Heaven Emperor sect were strict. The decision made by the Hall of Discipline could not be changed. Nobody would change it. If Luli could not pass the 18 levels, then he would be stuck in there for the rest of his life. Get ready. Go to the Hall of Internal Affairs to get 20 years' worth of cultivation resources. Tell them I told you. Chapter 2745. There were 3 places in the Celestial Emperor sect that were used for assessment. The sword formation of Celestial Emperor was not the most horrifying, but it was the least popular place for disciples. The sword formation of Celestial Emperor was a troublesome place with a poor environment. While death was unlikely, one could be seriously injured, which was torture. Luli went to the Hall of Internal Affairs to get some cultivation resources, and then he went to the sword formation of Celestial Emperor with the Hall of Discipline. Wang Ningxue and Hu Siming came to see him off. They took the teleportation formation and arrived at a mountain. The sword formation of Celestial Emperor was in a cave. The sword formation was built by a forefather of the Celestial Emperor sect. Back then, he was one of the top 3 most powerful warriors in the Endless Ruins. The sword formation was built to train the disciples of the Celestial Emperor sect. Those that could pass the formation would become powerful warriors of the sect. Half of the Emperor-level warriors of the sect had passed the formation when they were at the Lord Realm. Sister, brother Hu. Outside the cave, Luli cupped his fists and said, "You can go back now. When I come out from the sword formation, I will have another 300 goblets with you." Wang Ningxue handed a booklet to Luli and said, "Brother, this is the experience of a powerful warrior of our race when he went through the Heaven King's sword formation. It won't be of much help since the sword formation can change at any time. But take a look. Maybe you can learn from it." "Thank you, sister." Luli cupped his fists and thanked. Hu Siming didn't give Luli anything. Instead, he patted Luli's shoulder and said, "Brother Lu, when you come out, I will hold a banquet for 3 days to celebrate." Luli nodded and nodded to the Hall of Penalty. Then, he walked into the cave with determination. The moment he stepped into the cave, he vanished in a white glare. Hu Siming and Wang Ningxue didn't leave in a hurry. Instead, Hu Siming asked with interest, "Lady Ningxue, how long do you think it will take for your brother to come out?" Wang Ningxue frowned. She thought about it and said, 100 or 200 years. Luli has acquired a powerful skill and his comprehensive abilities have been improved. But his foundation is still weak. The sword formation of Celestial Emperor varies from person to person. I don't think he will come out in less than 200 years. Ha ha ha. Hu Siming laughed heartily and said, "Miss Ningxue, how about we make a bet? Let's bet 100 winter Een pills produced by your family. If I lose, I'll give you 100 Marillus pills. I bet he'll come out in 50 years at most." 50 years. Wang Ningxue shook her head and said, "Since young master Hu is willing to give me 100 Marillus pills, it would be impolite of me to refuse. I accept this bet." "Ha ha, deal." Hu Siming laughed and left. Wang Ningxue watched for a while and then left as well. The people from the disciplinary hall had already left. If Luli dared to come out without passing the 18 levels, then he would be violating the rules. By then, the punishment of the Hall of Penalty would be more severe. Luli appeared in a dark stone room. There was only a dim oil lamp on the wall. The stone room was not big, and there was only one corridor leading to the outside. Wang Ningxue had told Luli about the situation in the sword formation of Celestial Emperor. Luli knew this was just the beginning, not the first level. He would arrive at the first level by following the corridor. Every 3 levels, there would be a teleportation formation that could teleport people out. The sword formation here would not kill people. Before they were seriously injured or dying, the formation would stop automatically and the people would be teleported to the previous level to try again. Luli was confident of his abilities. Without any hesitation, he walked along the corridor and began to try the levels. At the end of the corridor, Luli saw that the corridor was winding down. It turned into cold stone stairs that spiraled downward as if it was connected to hell. Luli arrived at a stone door after 100 stairs. He pushed the door open and saw a rectangular stone room. The stone room was dimly lit as well. There was nothing in it. It was empty. The first level. Luli didn't use dragon wrestling skill or heaven armor skill. If he couldn't pass the first level, then he wouldn't go further. He would rather smash his head against the wall and kill himself. He walked in slowly. He didn't use psychic power. Instead, he used the mark of Tao to sense the surroundings. He must learn the sword formation of Celestial Emperor and familiarize himself with its mode of attack so that he could pass the later levels. 1 step, 2 steps, 10 steps. Luli's eyes glowed. He looked to the wall on his left. The wall glowed and then several rays of light reached Luli in an instant. Luli didn't dodge, nor did he do anything. He just took the hit with his body. He wanted to test the power of the sword formation of Celestial Emperor. Bang, bang, bang! Luli was smashed away. The rays of light disappeared. Luli's robe was torn and he was covered in dust. But he was not hurt, just a scratch. Okay. Luli was confident. He sped up and wandered around in the stone room. He moved around like a gust of wind. Whoosh, 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 as if he had poked a hornet's nest. The walls on both sides and above his head lit up. Then countless rays of light came at him. In an instant, the entire stone room was as bright as day. Luli used the mark of Tao to sense the surroundings. He twisted his body, trying his best to dodge the rays of light. At first, he had a hard time and was hit repeatedly. But after a while, he had become familiar with the pattern of the rays of light. Soon, he could dodge them. The rays of light here were weak. Luli could stand them easily. Therefore, it was a piece of cake for him. Apart from his torn robe, he didn't suffer any injuries. Even if it was just a little bit of skin, it would quickly recover. Luli didn't hurry to the second level. He wandered around, triggering many rays of light to attack him. He was trying to figure out how the sword formation of Celestial Emperor was doing to prepare for the later levels. Luli spent more than 2 hours on the first level. He came to the end of the stone room. There was a corridor. After he entered the corridor, the hall became quiet again. Luli didn't put on a new robe. Instead, he took off the torn one. He was going to go through more levels and the robe would be torn sooner or later. He only had on a pair of boxer shorts made of animal hide. It was a piece of treasure with strong defensive power. It could be hidden inside his body and was protecting Luli's important parts. The corridor was winding down. The sword formation of Celestial Emperor seemed to go all the way underground. It was like the 18th level of hell. The cold stone staircase, the dim light, and the gloomy atmosphere. If it was an ordinary martial artist, they would have been scared to the point of not daring to walk. Soon, Luli arrived at the second level. The sword formation here was much stronger than the first level. But for Luli, he didn't feel any pressure. He didn't use heaven armor or dragon wrestle. He relied solely on his physical strength. It was easy. Luli spent more than 2 hours on this level as well. He walked down the third level. This time, he didn't take his time. He dashed through the 3rd level in a blur. The 4th level, the 5th, the 10th. In half a day, Luli had passed 10 levels. He used Dragon Wrestle and Heaven Armor to pass the levels easily. He didn't feel much pressure. Chapter 2746. As far as many disciples of the Celestial Emperor sect were concerned, the first 10 levels of the sword formation of Celestial Emperor were for 5th Tribulation warriors. To be able to pass the 10th level meant that one's abilities were comparable to a lord's. The next 10 levels were for 6th Tribulation warriors. If one could pass the 20th level, it would mean that one had the abilities of a quasi-emperor, and the Celestial Emperor sect would grant one the position of a patriarch. Therefore, after the 11th level, Luli felt different. This was not a simple stone room, but a cave with complicated terrain. It was dimmer in here. As soon as Luli stepped into the cave, he sensed danger on all sides. It was as if he would be attacked from all sides if he took a random step. He did not move forward rashly. Instead, he sat down and rested. He had just used the dragon wrestling skill. He needed some time to recover to his peak state. He consumed some pellets and some pellets for souls. Then, he sat down for half a day to recover to his peak state. He released psychic power but realized that it was restricted here. He had to use the trace of Tao to sense the surroundings. He found nothing after a while. The cave was narrow and not spacious. He could not tell how long it was exactly. Move. He used the dragon wrestling skill and the heaven armor skill. He had the 7-colored glazed pagoda in his hand. He was using the imperial weapon as a shield. As a matter of fact, he could fly forward on the 7-colored glazed pagoda, but he didn't. He believed that he would not be able to use the imperial weapon later on. If he could not pass the 11th level, then he could forget about the later levels. He took a step forward, and the sound of something tearing through the air rang out in all directions. Then, swords flew out one after another. These swords were not sword lights, but more like real treasured swords. Hoi! Luli generated many abominable talismans and dashed toward the huge swords. When the abominable talismans and the swords collided, a shock wave spread out. Luli was knocked back, but soon, he rushed forward again. He kept using the abominable talismans to pave the way and move forward with difficulty. There were too many swords coming from all sides. The abominable talismans could not stop them. Inevitably, Luli was hit. He was smashed away. The swords were powerful. They tore his skin apart. That being said, his body was strong enough that he was not injured. Let me go. Luli did not even have time to tend to his wounds. He tried his best to dodge the swords, and he would use the 7-colored glazed pagoda from time to time. Luli moved forward with difficulty. He was smashed away, but he kept going. It was a winding tunnel with a length of hundreds of miles. Luli could have reached it in a blink if it were under normal circumstances. But here, it took him the time for dozens of breaths to pass. His body was already riddled with wounds. After rushing through the door, he heaved a sigh of relief. He deactivated the dragon wrestling art and sat cross-legged to heal his wounds, recalling the situation of the attack just now. After resting for half a day and recovering from his wounds, Luli continued to walk down the stone stairs to challenge the 12 levels. Lu cultivation. Now, spirit as Lu, he is all. To Lu divine mountain spirit Lu. As tribals to 7 as he could, he. In as he there in as in. As he there, the level was to. Lu only. As he was tribals. 7 Lu was to level. The trib was to be to king to. Only. 7. Chi. Lu tribe. The later stages would probably be several times harder than the previous stages, maybe even dozens of times harder. The terrain of the 12th level was the same as the 11th. Luli thought he was back at the 11th level. but he didn't see any blood on the ground. He did bleed before. Luli didn't use the dragon transformation either. Instead, he relied on his strong body. Just like at the 11th level, he used the abominable talisman to clear the way and used the 7-colored glazed pagoda to fend off some sword. Luli made it through this level with difficulty. The swords were many times more powerful than the ones before. Luli was covered in cuts and bruises, but his physical body was so strong that he was not seriously injured. Lordly said he could leave as long as Luli could pass the 15th level. But Luli had passed the 12th level. He didn't even use the dragon transformation, which confused Luli. Was Lordly going easy on him on purpose? Was he giving him some small punishment? Half a day later, Luli realized he was wrong. Even though the terrain of the 13th level was the same, Luli tried to force his way through but was knocked back. If it weren't for the fact that he used the 7-colored glazed pagoda to fend off most of the attacks, he would have been badly injured. He tried to see if he could enter the 7-colored glazed pagoda and realized that the space was restricted. He could not go in. He had no other choice but to use the dragon transformation and transform into a dragon warrior. Luli felt he was filled with power and that his claws could crush anything. His confidence was boosted by 100 times. He rushed forward in a frenzy. Boom, 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 boom. Many swords came from all directions and landed on Luli's scales. His scales were broken into pieces. That being said, Luli's physical body was too strong at the moment. It was just that his scales were broken and he suffered some moderate injuries. Even so, when Luli reached the end, he was covered in blood. After he used the dragon transformation, his defensive ability could be compared to a quasi-emperor's. Yet, he was still injured. The sword formation of Emperor was powerful. Should I go through the 14th level in one go? Or should I stop the dragon transformation and take a rest? Luli was hesitating. He could only sustain the dragon transformation for an hour or so. Although he was injured, his physical recovery ability in the state of the divine dragon transformation was very abnormal. He would be fine after some simple treatment. Let's see. Nobody could die in the sword formation of Emperor. Luli took some healing pellets at once. After a while, his wounds were healed and he rushed toward the 14th level. Luli was stunned when he pushed the door open. It was pitch dark in here. There was no light. He could not use psychic power to check. He used the mark of Tao to check, but it was still pitch dark. He could not sense anything. It is so dark. How can I find the exit? Luli was confused. He stood there for a while, and then made up his mind to move forward. Later, he would be attacked by swords. By then, there would be some weak light. Whoosh, 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 there came some noises. There were not many sounds and the noise was not loud. Luli could tell that the power was not strong. But that was not important. What surprised Luli was that there was no light. Even his senses were not clear. He could not tell where the attacks were coming from. Tut, 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 Luli was hit by 3 sword ripples. His eyes were wide open. The 3 invisible sword ripples had pierced through his abdomen and chest. Retreat. Without any hesitation, Luli retreated to where he came from. The door behind him was closed. Luli could not get out even if he wanted to. He stood where he was, not daring to move. Blood gushed out from his abdomen and dropped to the ground. But he was not aware of it. He looked around in fear. He felt there were many powerful swordsmen hiding around him. If he dared to take one step forward, he would be attacked mercilessly. Luli's defense was as strong as that of an Emperor Realm warrior. Yet, he was pierced through by the invisible sword ripples. If he had been hit in the head, wouldn't his head have been crushed? I thought I could make it through the 15th level with the help of the dragon transformation. I don't think I can even make it to the 14th level. Luli smiled bitterly. He had thought that Lordly was taking special care of him by asking him to go through the 15th level. Now, he realized that it was not easy. Chapter 27:47. This was a cave of complete darkness. The attacks in there were invisible and colorless. They could not be captured or judged, and they were powerful. If the attacks were more concentrated, Luli would have a bigger headache. He had a kind of divine power that could make his perception become especially sharp when he activated the Great Path Mark. However, the darkness here seemed to be devouring his perception. The invisible sword wave was also very fast, and there were no signs when it was activated. It was very difficult to predict it in advance. If he could not predict them, then he could not dodge them. If he could not defend himself, then how could he pass the trial? Luli did not know. He thought for a while, and then stopped the dragon transformation to rest and heal. It was easy to stop the dragon transformation. Emperor Rue's help helped Luli find an idea, which was to move the dragon energy back to his acupoints. The blood in his body would calm down and the dragon blood would hide in his body. Then the dragon transformation would be deactivated. Luli was not in a hurry to think about it. He focused on healing and at the same time, let himself rest and enter the calmest state. He was prepared to be trapped here for a long time. Emperor Rue said that if he worked hard, he could get out in 30 years. Emperor Rue had a good eye. Even Emperor Rue said it would take him 30 years. It was pointless for Luli to be anxious. He was prepared to be trapped here for decades. He did not want to think about the third heaven anymore. He didn't want to think about Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong either. He could not get out if he could. Even if he could he be valued by the Holy Lady sect given his current abilities and status? Could he marry Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong to him? Only by rising like a comet and showing his potential could he become a high-level leader of the Heaven Emperor sect. Only then would the Holy Lady sect value him and marry Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong to him. In the final analysis, it was not about whether he could get out of the Heaven Emperor sword formation, but his abilities. If he was powerful enough, he could pass the 18 levels easily. He would become the focus of many forces and become a target for them to rope in. Then, everything would fall into place. Luli calmed down after he figured out the crux of the matter. He began to cultivate after his wounds were healed. The first was to refine his bones and the second was to refine his soul. At the same time, he began to think about which aspect of his abilities he should improve to pass the 14 levels. Buzzing. Divine power lit up in his hands. Divine power was supposed to be glowing, but when he swept his gaze over, all he saw was darkness. He originally wanted to look at the booklet that Wang Ningxue gave him, but now he couldn't see anything. It was very dark here, and one's perception was also swallowed. The invisible sword wave's attack speed was very fast, and its attack power was very fierce. Luli came to a conclusion after thinking about it for a long time. If he wanted to pass this level, he had to either improve his perception, improve his body movement, or improve his defense. To improve one's perception, one needed to comprehend the Great Tao Mark. If one could comprehend the Great Tao Marks further, one's perception might increase by dozens of times. Movement techniques had to be practiced, and he had to comprehend the true meaning of wind. As for defense, it would be very difficult to improve in a short period of time. His physical body was too strong and the base was too big. It would be too difficult to improve by leaps and bounds. The difficulty of cultivating a movement technique was also very high. Wanting to comprehend a wind elemental true intent out of thin air and allow one's movement technique to have a huge improvement was even more difficult than improving one's physical body. Therefore, Luli decided to study the Great Tao Mark. He decided to spend a year or two to see if he could make significant progress. The cave was dark, and it was so quiet that it was unnerving. Sitting in there with his legs crossed, one would feel lonely. One could not tell the difference between illusion and reality. It was as if one's soul was imprisoned, and one would be trapped in the darkness forever. If they stayed in this environment for too long, even an old man would go crazy, let alone Luli. Therefore, Luli made up his mind that he must solve this level in 3 years. Otherwise, he might have a nervous breakdown if he stayed here for a long time. He had to cultivate divine energy, refine his bones, refine his soul, and study the great Tao marks at the same time. Luli's soul was divided into several parts. Fortunately, his soul was strong enough now. When his soul was at a certain level, it was not difficult for him to multitask. Luli entered the dreamland. Gradually, he became one with the darkness, as if he had become a statue in the stone room. Peace had returned to the outside world. The Guan family swallowed their anger. The young disciples were angry, and they wanted to find a chance to get back at Guan family. However, none of the higher-ups dared to have any thoughts of revenge, at least not on the surface. Lordly had come. Unless the Guan family wanted to court destruction, the Guan family had to bite the bullet. Also, the higher-ups could not show any dissatisfaction. The higher-ups of the Celestial Emperor sect had a bad impression of the Guan family. If the Guan family dared to act recklessly, the Guan family would have to relocate and seek shelter from other forces. Otherwise, the Guan family would not have a good future. The other places in the endless ruins of divinity were quiet as well. No major forces had declared war against each other. That being said, for the endless ruins of divinity, it was not unusual for small forces or dynasties to fight. It was as if the sun had risen in the sky. Nobody paid attention to it. Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong, on the other hand, were having a hard time. The seniors in the sect were pressuring them and brainwashing them, hoping that they could join the inner sect of the Holy Lady sect. They said that as long as they joined the inner sect, they would receive the full support of the sect. It was not impossible for them to become emperors or even saint emperors. By then, they would become the most important figures in the endless ruins of divinity. They could rule over billions of people, enjoy the worship and reverence of others, and do whatever they wanted. One patriarch even hinted that if they could become patriarchs of the Holy Lady sect, nobody would say anything if they secretly kept some young masters as long as they did not get married in public. Average female disciples would have been fooled by them. But Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong did not care about that. Instead, they were disgusted by those old witches. They had no sense of belonging to the endless ruins of divinity. All they could think about was how to leave the Holy Lady sect, how to find a way back to the third heaven and go back with Luli. Lu Ling was fine. She had no attachment to the dragon rebel race. But Xiang Linglong was different. She had a good relationship with her family. She was loyal and loving to the Xiang family. She missed her family and was worried about them. She could not wait to go back. The army of the abyssal demons was pressing on and the third heaven was in danger. Xiang Linglong was worried that by the time they went back, the Xiang family would be in ruins and all the people of the third heaven would be enslaved by the abyssal demons. She could not imagine that. Therefore, she had been suffering recently. She had been cultivating diligently. Grandpa, father, mother, people, you must hang on. Great Lord Immortals, human ancestors of the third heaven, please protect the people of the third heaven. In an elegant room, Xiang Linglong knelt on the ground and prayed to heaven. She was as pious as a believer. Chapter 2748. Third Heaven, Ziyang Continent, Frozen Valley. It was still the same as when Luli and the others arrived. The scenery had hardly changed. Countless slaves were living a numb life, mining and drinking every day. Occasionally, they would go to the dueling field to gamble. They didn't care about the situation outside. Even if the third heaven was occupied by the abyss of devils, so what? They would just change masters and continue to be slaves. But today, those slaves were a little surprised because there were a lot of warriors in the frozen valley. They were repeatedly warned not to make any trouble today. Otherwise, they would be killed on the spot. Many slaves were also confined to the barracks and could not come out. The more it was like this, the more curious the slaves were. Was there a big shot coming today? Some slaves quietly probed with their psychic power and found that Sun Hong, the leader of the Frozen Valley, was waiting respectfully in the teleportation formation with a group of people. It seemed that a big shot was coming. Buzzing. After an hour, the teleportation formation lit up. Then more than a dozen people appeared in the teleportation formation. Countless psychic power could not be suppressed and immediately probe. When they saw a red ox-nosed old man, everyone's breathing became lower. Many people knew that this was the 8th patriarch of the Sun family. He had been here several times and was a real big shot. Wow! The eyes of many male slaves suddenly lit up and locked on a beautiful young lady who was surrounded by the crowd. The young lady had an amiable and natural aura, just like those beautiful flowers and beautiful trees outside the icebound valley, which made people unable to help but have a cordial feeling. This lady was so beautiful, but no one would have any blasphemous thoughts. They felt that this lady was like a treasure given to the world by God. They only dared to look at her from a distance and not to offend her. This was a woman who could make all men have tender feelings and want to protect with their lives. They felt that she was their sister, their daughter. No one would have any disrespectful thoughts. Those two, aren't they? A slave slightly exclaimed. Many slaves used their psychic power and found two vaguely familiar faces. Some old people had good memory and soon remembered. The two young men behind the lady had served in the Frozen Valley and seemed to have made a big trouble. They didn't expect that they could come back. And they came back accompanied by the patriarch of the Sun family. That's right. One of them is called Qin Zhan, and the other is called Gan Lin. They were the two who caused trouble with Massacre God Lu back then. An old man murmured. There were quite a few old men nearby. Although the incident had happened many years ago, they still remembered it clearly. After all, how could they not remember a fierce person who dared to kill the Muddy Heaven Blood Eagle clan and successfully escaped? What goes around comes around. They actually came back? Back then, the Sun family had hunted them down. But now, he was accompanied by an elder of the Sun family. Who was that young lady? She's already a lord at such a young age. Looks like she's the daughter of a super rich and powerful family. It's only natural for an elder of the Sun family to accompany such a young lord. What was this young lady doing here? Could it be that he is helping Qin Zhan and Gan Lin vent their anger? There were many old people in the Frozen Valley. These people were not strong enough. They had been here for thousands of years. It was estimated that they would die of old age in the Frozen Valley. Many people remembered what happened back then, and they also recognized Qin Zhan and Gan Lin, which naturally caused a sensation. They vaguely heard that after Massacre God Lu escaped, he was captured by the Muddy Heaven Blood Eagle clan, but he escaped again. Now, he seemed to have become a big shot. Lady Een, how about we go in and take a rest? I think it will take some time. Patriarch 8 of the Sun family said to the beautiful lady with a fawning smile. He had to please her. After all, the Sun family once hunted down Lu Li, Qin Zhan and Gan Lin. Now Lu Li's name was known all over the world. Qin Zhan and Gan Lin had joined the Yi family. The Yi family had become powerful again. If they were to make trouble for the Sun family, it could be a disaster for the Sun family. It's okay. Just wait here. The beautiful lady called Lady Een was Een Qingxi. She said casually and then waited quietly by the teleportation formation. Qin Zhan and Gan Lin followed behind Een Qingxi, feeling a little excited. After so many years, they could finally see their families and people again. That was right. Een Qingxi, Qin Zhan and Gan Lin were here to pick up someone from the second heaven. Otherwise, they wouldn't have come across two lands for no reason. It wasn't the Qin family and the Een family that moved to the third heaven. It was the Lu family that had moved here. The crippled Zen master gave the order and arrangement in person. The Yi family had sent someone to the second heaven to contact the Lu family, and the Lu family agreed. It was not only the crippled Zen master's idea. Reincarnation Emperor and others had also sent a secret order: take good care of the families of the heroes. Several emperors' families even gave some resources for the Yi family to take care of the heroes. The word hero was more like a martyr. Taking care of the Lu family was more like taking care of the deceased. For those super wealthy families, some resources were enough for the Lu family to soar. After all, the Lu family was weak. It was not only Lu Li. Dong Yi, Ying, Xiang, Linglong and Lu Ling were heroes of the 10 that went to the den of devils. They successfully blew up the altar and bought some time for the third heaven. 5 of the 10 had died in the battle forever. That had been confirmed. The other 4 had gone missing. They couldn't be found after so many years. There was no news about them. According to the report of the scouts, the other 5 had been sent to the abyss of devils because of the backlash from the altar. They were no longer in the same world. Therefore, their lives were no longer connected to the jade talisman of life. Naturally, the 5 could not be determined. But everyone, including Linglong's parents, the dragon rebel race and the Dong Yi family, believed that the 4 had died. Even 5 emperors would not survive if they were sucked into the abyss of devils, let alone the 5 of them. Therefore, even though the 5 were not confirmed dead, they were believed to have died bravely. Reincarnation Emperor and the other emperors conferred posthumous titles to the 10. Lu Li's title was General Yong Yi. The stories of the 10 were spread out. They were admired by the world and became heroes. This was also the propaganda that Reincarnation Emperor and the others used to call everyone to fight to the death, encouraging more powerful warriors and warriors to fight against the armies of the Abyss of Devils. Yin Qingxi came to the Ice Valley with 2 patriarchs of the Yi family, Qin Zhan and Gan Lin. They were here to pick up the family of General Yong Yi and bring them back to the chilly winterland. The Lu family was granted a piece of land and many resources to help the Lu family grow. Along with the Lu family came some warriors of the Qin family and the Gan family. Because of Lu Li, Qin Zhan and Gan Lin were doing well in the Yin family. Under the training of the Yin family, their abilities had improved. Both of them had reached the 5th tribulation. Therefore, both the Yin family and the Qin family sent some young disciples to follow them. They were ready to build a new Qin family and the Gan family in the 3rd heaven. Maybe in hundreds or thousands of years, the Qin family and the Gan family would become powerful forces. Of course, this was relative to the families at the 2nd heaven. Buzzing. After waiting for more than 6 hours, the teleportation formation finally lit up. Yin Qingxi's expression became complicated. Chapter 2749. The huge teleportation formation glowed for a long time, indicating that the destination was far away and that a large number of people were being teleported. An hour later, a group of people showed up in the teleportation formation. This time, more than 100 people were teleported over. Generally speaking, they were not powerful. Therefore, many of them looked awful. That being said, they tried their best not to throw up. Lu Renhuang was here, but Patriarch of Law Enforcement and Lu Xingyang did not. They chose to stay at the Asmodean Island at the 2nd heaven to guard their home. Patriarch of Law Enforcement was old and Lu Xingyang felt his realm could no longer be improved. They didn't want to go higher. The Lu family of the Asmodean Island had taken shape. With the Asmodean around, nobody dared to mess with the Lu family. The Lu family had a blessed land and many resources. They were developing fast. Therefore, the Lu family decided that Patriarch of Law Enforcement and Lu Xingyang would stay at the Asmodean Island, while Lu Renhuang would lead a team to the 3rd heaven. Lu Li's wives and concubines were here as well as many young elites of the Lu family. Including some from the Qin family and the Gan family, the total number was 150. Jiang Qiling, Bai Qiuxue, Bai Xiaoshuang, Prajna, and Qi Shi were not happy. Their realms were not high. Prajna was at the peak of the third tribulation. Bai Qiuxue and Jiang Qiling were at the third tribulation, while Qi Shi and Bai Xiaoshuang were at the peak of the second tribulation. Lu Renhuang had never married. He had devoted himself to cultivation. His realm was quite good. He was at the peak of the third tribulation. Of course, all this was because of the Asmodeans' deliberate training. It would be commendable if they could reach the peak of the second tribulation on their own. As soon as they came out, they looked around. Soon, they were disappointed because they didn't see Lu Li's familiar face. They only remembered Qin Zhan and Gan Lin. Similarly, they had never seen Yin Qingxi before. Axe Demon was not here. Second Uncle Gan Lin led the team. The Qin family was led by Qin Zhan's third grandpa. Qin Zhan's father was among them. Good job! Second Uncle Gan Lin patted Gan Lin's shoulder and gave him a big hug. Qin Zhan's third grandpa and his father nodded to Qin Zhan, pleased. Some young warriors of the Qin family and Gan family looked at them with admiration. If it were not for the fact that there were so many important people here, they would have gathered around. I am Yin Qingxi. Yin Qingxi bowed to Lu Renhuang and said, I am Lu Li's friend. I am here to welcome Uncle Renhuang, sisters, seniors of the Lu family, Qin family, and the Gan family. Welcome to the third heaven. Lu Renhuang was the leader of the group. He saluted back and said, Thank you, Lady Yin. Thank you, lords, for your warm welcome. Well, where is Lu Li? Lu Renhuang was in a hurry. He asked the question that Jiang Qiling and the others wanted to know. The messenger from the Yin family didn't say much. He only said that he would know when he reached the third heaven. They all had a bad feeling about this, which was why Lu Renhuang was asking in such a hurry. Uncle Human Emperor, this is not the place to talk. Let's go into the castle first and let everyone rest. Yin Qingxi didn't say much. There were too many people around, and it was not convenient to talk about it here. She was also hesitating if she should tell them the truth. I've been rude. Lu Renhuang's mind was weighed down again. He suppressed his worry and helped the Xin family to settle everyone in the castle. When everything was settled, Lu Renhuang, Jiang Qiling, Bai Qiuxue and Prajna couldn't wait to find Yin Qingxi, Qin Zhan and Gan Lin to ask about Lu Li. Yin Qingxi thought about it and decided to tell them the truth. After all, the news had been spread out. It was impossible to keep it a secret. Lu Renhuang went to the Yin family, and they could get some information soon. Yin Qingxi, Qin Zhan and Bai Qiuxue filled in the details. They told them everything they knew about Lu Li. It took them 2 hours. In the end, Yin Qingxi said, Uncle Human Emperor, Qiling, Qiuxue, Prajna, don't worry. Lu Li is blessed. He will come back safely. I have no doubt about that. Prajna suddenly said, I have a strong feeling that Lu Li is still alive. He is definitely alive. Jiang Qiling and Bai Qiuxue's eyes glowed. Yin Qingxi was surprised. She asked, Prajna, why are you so sure? Because I am a spirit of nature. Prajna said with certainty, I have a natural connection with my husband, which has never been broken. Therefore, I am sure that he is still alive. They were excited. Lu Li had been missing for so many years. If he was still alive, then there was a possibility that he could live on. Lu Li was believed to have been sucked into the abyssal abyss along with the rebel dragon, Ling Long, Eastern Wild Eagle and Yang Gang. There were so many people in the abyssal abyss. The fact that they were still alive meant that they must have found a way to avoid the search of the abyssal abyss warriors. Good! Qin Zhan and Gan Lin were delighted. Qin Zhan was still pacing up and down in the hall, as excited as a child. Lu Renhuang was a bit relieved. At least he knew where Lu Li was, and there was hope that he could come back. All right, don't overthink. Lu Renhuang waved his hand and said, I think my son will come back. He has created one miracle after another. This time, he will not let us down. Let's not overthink. Cultivate hard and let our family grow. Let's wait for him to come back. Right. Lu Renhuang thought about it and said, I heard from your messenger that the third heaven is being invaded by the Abyssal Abyss army. The situation at the chilly winterland is fierce as well. How is it going? Basically, everything is under control. Yin Qingxi explained, Lu Li destroyed the altar. There are no materials at the Abyssal Abyss. They cannot summon the Asmodean Lord anytime soon. They can only teleport average warriors and powerful warriors over. Many hidden warriors have come out from the third heaven. The situation at the north and the south are stabilized. The Abyssal Abyss warriors are confined to a certain range. Yin Qingxi added, Uncle Renhuang, don't worry. You can come with us to the Yin family first. We have arranged a place for you. Many wealthy families have sent you many resources and treasures for you to develop. Once the situation at the chilly winterland changes, we will send you away at once. You can go to the secret realm or other safe land. Lu Li is now a brave general appointed by dozens of emperors. Nobody dares to do anything to you. The blood-evil emperor was right. Back in the days, when the worlds above the fourth heaven collapsed, many powerful warriors swarmed into the third heaven, which led to unprecedented prosperity. The third heaven suffered a great loss in that war. Many saint kings passed away. But the third heaven still had a strong foundation. There were many hidden warriors like the Reincarnation Emperor. Over the years, 13 hidden warriors came out one after another. The situation at the northern plains and the chilly winterland had stabilized. Humans began to plan for a counterattack. They wanted to wipe out the Abyssal Abyss warriors or drive them back to the Abyssal Abyss. Of course, more warriors and powerful warriors were coming from the Abyssal Abyss. It would take time to wipe out the Abyssal Abyss warriors. This would be a long and arduous battle. Nobody could tell when the battle would end. It might take 10 years, 100 years, or even 10,000 years. Chapter 2750. A huge warship pierced through the sky and left. The people of the Sin family finally felt relieved. The Yin family didn't make trouble for them. Qin Zhan and Gan Lin didn't hold grudges against them. Yin Qingxi took Lu Renhuang and the others away. The Sin family could put their minds at ease. Lu Renhuang and the others left in a battleship, a super battleship provided by the Yin family. It was fast. Of course, it was not as fast as teleportation or opening a spatial gate. That being said, there were too many warriors of the second tribulation. Opening a spatial gate was out of the question. Many people's souls couldn't stand it. Teleportation was fast, but after dozens of times, they would have to rest for a long time. In that case, it would be about the same time as taking a battleship. Teleporting so many people would consume a lot of divine stones. It was true that no force dared to collect divine stones from Lu Li's family. But it would be tiring to negotiate with them one by one. Yin Qingxi brought many elixirs and materials, as well as some steels and other treasures to assist cultivation. The battleship was fast. In 3 to 4 years at most, they could arrive at the Yin family. Therefore, they could cultivate on the battleship for a few years. They didn't have to worry about their safety along the way. Yin Qingxi had reached the Lord Realm, and she was given a Sovereign Realm weapon by the Yin family. She was strong. The fact that the Yin family sent 2 patriarchs of the 6th tribulation was enough to make sure that the average forces wouldn't mess with them, who would risk offending many emperors and attack Lu Li's family if they were from a major force. Not even Phoenix Queen and Yang Emperor, who hated Lu Li, would dare to do this. It would be pointless. Lu Renhuang, Bai Qiuxue, and the others were worried, but they were calm. After a few days on the battleship, they all went into closed-door cultivation. Only the young disciples were in high spirits. Every now and then, they would stand on the deck in excitement. They looked around and discussed the future. All of them were looking forward to the third heaven. They wanted to become the best, to make a name for themselves, and to return to their hometown in glory. The battle at the third heaven was in a stalemate. The Asmodeans' abyss stopped expanding. Humans fought back several times. Though many Asmodeans were killed, the Asmodeans' abyss suffered heavy casualties. Therefore, both sides had to lay down their banners and rest. However, thanks to the top-notch resources provided by the great clans, countless martial artists were improving their combat strength at a very fast pace. Tens of millions of low-level martial artists were gathered in the Northern Plains continent and the chilly winter continent. These people were not innately talented or did not cultivate hard enough. They just lacked resources and opportunities. Now, the great clans were providing an unlimited supply of pills, divine medicines, and top-grade treasured lands. It allowed their divine power, soul, and corporeal body to improve rapidly. It also allowed them to comprehend the true meanings in the various treasure grounds. This way, the increase in their combat power would be terrifying. In theory, the super clans had the ability to produce a steady stream of Fourth Tribulation warriors. As long as their talent wasn't bad, they could rely on their resources to produce a large number of Fourth Tribulation warriors in a short time. The 5 tribulations were more difficult and required time. The great clans didn't think about nurturing Fifth Tribulation experts. Batches of warriors would advance to the Fourth Tribulation with the help of their resources. Then, they would rush to the front lines to prepare for the next great counterattack. Although the two sides had stopped fighting, the small-scale battles had not stopped. Both sides were actually tempering their low-ranking soldiers, allowing them to familiarize themselves with each other's fighting style. Blood was shed on the two battlefields every day. Every day, tens of thousands died. Their names were engraved on the steel of martyrs. The abyss of demons was coming at them aggressively. They would not stop until the third heaven was occupied. The human side was fighting for survival and dignity. There was no way back. Unless one side lost all their powerful warriors and lost more than half of their warriors, the battle would never stop. The powerful warriors of the human side were of the same mind. They would not admit defeat even if they had to fight to the last one warrior or 1 million warriors. This was a fight for survival, a fight between races. Luli and the others did not know the situation at the third heaven. Luli had been cultivating in the Heaven Emperor sword formation in the Celestial Emperor realm. Time flew while he was cultivating. Soon, a year and a half had passed. Luli didn't come out. He had been cultivating. During the year, he didn't even move his body. When he was tired or sleepy, he would sit down and sleep. When he woke up, he would cultivate again. He had been studying for a year and a half. He had made some progress on the trace of the Great Path. Therefore, he was excited. At the moment, he didn't care how many years had passed. All he wanted to do was to turn this little progress into a big leap. There was nothing particularly big happening in the outside world. The only thing worth mentioning was that a month ago, the Saintly Lady sect issued an announcement. They were going to hold a discussion at the Mount of Huayang. The Saintly Lady sect sent out invitations to all the major forces, inviting their young talents to gather at the Peak of Anjanu in 3 years. They would learn from each other, compete in martial arts, discuss, and make progress together. This time, they even invited the major forces that published the list of green clouds to hold it together. The underlying meaning was clear. They wanted to re-evaluate the young generation's abilities and reformulate the list of green clouds. The announcement caused a stir in the endless ruins of gods. Many young talents responded at once. Some of the major forces stated that they would send their disciples to participate in 3 years. In just a month, 13 of the 18 forces responded. The remaining 5 forces, including the Celestial Emperor sect, did not respond. It was a pity. If the top disciples of the Celestial Emperor sect did not participate, there would be nothing to see in the competition. They could not accurately formulate the new list of green clouds. However, there were countless medium-sized forces that did not receive the invitation but mainly requested to participate. After the selection, the Saintly Lady sect agreed to more than 100 forces to participate. There were even some descendants of old devils who requested to participate through various channels. Most of them were young people who were eager to get the opportunity to show off and wanted to become famous in one fell swoop. More importantly, this time's Hua Yang Dao discussion was organized by the Saintly Lady sect. In fact, many people privately called this Dao discussion as the courtesan selection. It was also because they compared the Saintly Lady sect to a brothel. Then, a group of young masters from the top clans would gather at the Saintly Lady sect to select the courtesan they nominated. Whichever young master was more outstanding and had a deeper background, they would marry their outstanding women to him and then form a marriage alliance with that force. It was said that this time, the Saintly Lady sect was preparing to take out 35 of the most outstanding female disciples of the outer sect to form a marriage alliance. Each of them was as beautiful as a fairy and could outshine the moon and the flowers. Furthermore, they were not just flower vases. They had a myriad of temperament and extraordinary strength. The young experts of the entire endless ruins of gods would gather together to compete. If they won, not only would they be famous, they would also be able to marry a beauty. Furthermore, they would be related to the Saintly Lady sect and have a higher status in their clan. How could those young masters who thought of themselves as virtuous not flock to such a good thing? It was understandable that the descendants of old devils and young masters from medium-sized families would try their best to participate in this discussion. At the same time, Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong also received the final notice from the sect. If Hua Yang didn't join the inner sect before the Dao discussion, they would be forced to marry out of the sect. If they refused to marry, then sorry. The Saintly Lady goo inside them would gnaw away at their bodies until only bones remained. Chapter 2751. Female Saintess Gu. Known as the number 1 Gu in the Endless God Ruins, only the female Saintess sect could remove it. Of course, there might be some powerful heavenly emperors who could remove it, but why would those heavenly emperors help the disciples of the female Saintess sect? Why would they offend the female Saintess sect for no reason? There was only one female Saintess Gu when it was planted, but it would quickly split into tens of thousands, lurking in the bone marrow of the martial artist. This Gu's defense was very strong, and it couldn't be killed. Even a quasi-emperor couldn't kill it. It was impossible to force it out, and it was even more impossible to poison it to death. These Gu worms were like maggots in the tarsal bone. They had already integrated with the bones of the person who planted the Gu. Usually, they wouldn't act up, but once the Gu master gave the order, even if the person reached the quasi-emperor level, they would be bitten to death in minutes. However, once they broke through the emperor rank, the female Saintess Gu was almost useless. Emperor rank could also suppress the female Saintess Gu. Those who could reach emperor rank were the upper echelons of the female Saintess sect. They themselves had vested interest. Most of them wouldn't think of leaving the female Saintess sect, but wanted to act like a tyrant. That's right. Because they had been suppressed and brainwashed for so many years, their minds had long been distorted. The naive era of the past was long gone. What was left was only the thoughts of women's rights. They only wanted to take revenge on the world's shameless men. There were also some who wanted to leave after reaching the emperor rank, but at this time, they would find that their families had long been integrated with the female Saintess sect. In addition to the suppression of the heavenly emperors, they could no longer leave the female Saintess sect. Of course, in history, there were also emperor rank experts who forcibly left the female Saintess sect, but they were all mercilessly killed in the end. For so many years, the female Saintess sect always had 2 or 3 heavenly emperors. Those who dared to betray the female Saintess sect would only face death. The inner sect disciples were the mainstay of the female saintess sect, the core strength. The outer sect disciples were the bargaining chips they used to win over the major forces. Generation after generation of marriage alliances, in addition to the combination of various interests, made those forces and the female sage sect tightly bound together. They were bound together for good or bad. The goal of the female saintess sect was to unite all the major forces and then destroy the heavenly emperor sect and eventually become the ruler of the endless god ruins. This was the wish of the leaders of the saintess sect generation after generation, and it was also the source of the continuous struggle of the group of perverted old women. If a female outer sect disciple didn't follow the sect's arrangements, the only outcome was death. There were no exceptions. After you listen to the arrangements, get married and have children, after 100 years, the sect will remove the saintess goo for you. Only then can you be considered to be truly free. It's just that after 100 years, if you're quick, you'll probably have a house full of children and grandchildren. You'll have long become one with that family. Even if you get freedom, is it true freedom? Furthermore, this clan would also be tied to the female saintly sect. So even if the female saintly goo was removed, you would be woefully aware that you would never be able to escape the control of the female saintly sect in this lifetime. This was the method of the saintess sect. This method was no longer an open secret in the endless ruins of gods. However, there were still countless young masters and families who flocked to marry a female holy sect disciple like a flock of ducks. The disciples of the female holy sect would be trained in all aspects. Strength, temperament, bearing, and even the techniques of the bedroom would be trained. The disciples of the female holy sect had the halo of a super sect. The female disciples who could marry out of the sect were all perfect goddesses in all aspects. They were all proud daughters of heaven, and were the most ideal beauties in the hearts of men. While hugging the beauties, the female holy sect would also accept this force and provide a considerable amount of support. For example, they would secretly send experts to help you fight for territories. Every year, your clan could send a group of elites to the peerless treasured land of the female holy sect for cultivation. Or they could sell the top-grade rare divine herbs to you at half price. All kinds of benefits. Once they had a connection with the female holy sect, a medium clan would become a great clan within a few hundred years. A great clan would rise to the next level within a few hundred years. If it was a super influential clan, their status would be even more stable. For all the clans and sects, benefits were above everything else. The clan's development was above everything else. Even if they knew that the female holy sect didn't have any good intentions, they still swallowed this cake with slow-acting poison. In order to dominate the endless ruins of gods, the upper echelons of the female holy sect had sacrificed themselves generation after generation. In the eyes of those upper echelons, all the female disciples were expendable. They had nurtured so many female disciples and didn't even hesitate to forcibly plunder the talented female disciples from some small clans. Wasn't it all for the development of the sect? They were willing to sacrifice everything so that their sect could dominate the endless ruins of gods. Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong were the two that were about to be sacrificed. Many patriarchs and even the clan master had said in person that the two still didn't want to join the inner sect. The sect was ready to give up on them. In 3 years' time, if the two still didn't want to join the inner sect, then they would have to be used as tools to form an alliance through marriage. If they didn't want to marry, then the sect would have no choice but to end their lives. Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong were well aware of their fate. But what could they do? Apart from cultivating, there was nothing else they could do. Lu Ling was a smart girl, but there was nothing she could do at the moment. Nobody could solve the female holy insect. She was like a housewife who couldn't cook a meal without rice. Nobody here could count on the female holy sect. Apart from the Celestial Emperor sect, no other sect could compete with the female holy sect. Not even the Celestial Emperor sect would start a war with the female holy sect for no reason. After all, once the war started, both sides would suffer. The Celestial Emperor sect might lose its power and status as the most powerful sect in the world. Count on Luli? That was even more impossible. Luli had risen to fame recently, but his abilities were limited. Any patriarch of the female holy sect could crush Luli, let alone anything else. Luli was Emperor Rue's disciple. But even if Emperor Rue came, the female holy sect wouldn't give him face. Unless Luli was the clan master of the Celestial Emperor sect, as his master Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong did not know what to do. They had to cultivate for 3 years. If worse came to worst, they would have to die. They would not compromise even at the cost of their lives. Another 3 months passed. Of the 18 major sects, 2 had decided to participate in the Huayang Forum. Only 5 had not said anything. It had been a long time. If the 5 sects didn't say anything, it would be a refusal. The Celestial Emperor sect was one of them. Inevitably, many people were disappointed. Without the top disciples of the Celestial Emperor sect, the Huayang Forum's prestige and standard would be reduced. That being said, it was understandable. The Celestial Emperor sect didn't need to prove anything. They had always looked down on the female holy sect, and they would not allow disciples of the female holy sect to infiltrate the Celestial Emperor sect. During the 3 months, more middle-level families were willing to join. 3 days ago, the female holy sect announced that more than 100 sects, forces, or outstanding young people would be selected. The Huayang Forum became unprecedentedly grand. Chapter 2752. It was true that the Celestial Emperor sect did not want to attend the seminar of Huayang even though Gu Jian and the others were eager to go. After all, this was a chance for them to make a name for themselves. The Celestial Emperor sect was not at war, so they could not show themselves. This was a good chance. Not only could they gain fame, but they could also be valued by the sect. It was a pity that the higher-ups of the Celestial Emperor sect had expressed that they would not attend. Therefore, the outstanding disciples had to gather together and exclaim when they had nothing to do. The rules of the Celestial Emperor sect were strict. Without permission from the sect, who dared to attend secretly? At that time, what awaited them would be expulsion from the sect. Luli was still stuck at the 14th level of the Celestial Emperor sword formation. He had been sitting in this dark place for almost 2 years. However, he did not panic at all, nor did he feel the slightest bit lonely. Instead, he was very excited. He had lost track of time and forgot that he was in the Celestial Emperor sword formation. He was focusing on the traces of the Great Path. The scar of the Great Tao had made great progress. After studying the traces of the Great Path for so many years, he was making the fastest progress in the absolute darkness of the Celestial Emperor sword formation. Maybe it was because of the absolute darkness that he could calm himself down. Or maybe it was the atmosphere that inspired him. Either way, he was making rapid progress. The human body is a natural formation. The more than 3,000 traces of the Great Path are distributed in the human body. They are not randomly distributed. They are in accordance with the human body, in other words, with some kind of natural law. The more than 3,000 traces of the Great Path once supported the primordial realm and formed that world. They are the backbone of that world. Now that the traces of the Great Path are in my body, can they support a world as well? Can my body be counted as a world? Can I build a world in my body? When this idea popped up in Lu Li's mind, he was frightened. If he could build a world in his body, wouldn't he become a monster? However, when this idea popped up in his mind, the 3,000 traces of the Great Path lit up. At that moment, Lu Li's spiritual connection with the traces of the Great Path was deepened. The traces of the Great Path seemed to be more integrated with his body. Lu Li was excited. This meant that he was going in the right direction. The traces of the Great Path would be more compatible with him. That was why he had been working so hard recently. He wanted to see if he could make progress in this direction. Build a world in his body? Wouldn't that make her the god of creation? If he really succeeded, wouldn't that mean that he had become a sovereign? Does it mean that he possesses an astonishing amount of magical power and can control everything? Luli did not know. But he did know that if he could succeed, then his abilities would soar and all the problems that were bothering him would be solved. He began to diligently comprehend and deduce, repeatedly verifying the feasibility of such a thing. More than 3,000 traces of the Great Path had been carved from the primordial secret realm. In his opinion, the primordial secret realm was more like a world that had not evolved successfully. It was the prototype of a great world. More than 3,000 great Tao marks were the skeleton that supported the entire primordial world. It was like the backbone of a room. Without these 3,000 great Tao marks, the world would definitely collapse. Now, he had more than 3,000 great path scars in his body, and they had fused with his body. In theory, he could condense a small world in his body and nurture a small world. Of course, all of this was Lu Li's speculation. He began to figure out what was needed to build a world. The theory was simple, but creating a world was easier said than done. Lu Li had been thinking for more than a year, but he never had a definite idea. That being said, as he studied, the great path scars were more compatible with his body. The more compatible they were, the more perceptive he would be, which meant that he was going in the right direction. 2 years had passed. Lu Li stopped studying. He had reached a bottleneck for the time being and could not make much progress. He looked around worriedly, and his eyes were filled with confusion. In theory, he had the foundation, but how was he going to create a world? How to find an entry point? What if he started? He could not just shout, "I want to create a world," and then a small world would appear in his body out of nowhere. It is so dark here. There is not a single bit of light. Lu Li looked around blankly and began to mumble nervously. Right at that moment, his mind trembled. He felt he had been enlightened. Some things that he could not figure out suddenly became clear. Before the world is born, it must be dark. There is nothing. Naturally, it is dark. To create a world, there must be light. Where does light come from? Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts not only have light but also have the attributes of destruction and rebirth. Thunderbolts can destroy and rebirth at the same time. Thunderbolts split chaos, and then a brand new world was born in the chaos. That is right. That is it. The entry point is Thunderbolt. I have to destroy and then find a way to rebirth. I have Thunderbolts in my body. My 720 acupoints are filled with Thunderbolt. I can use Thunderbolts to destroy and then be reborn. Slowly, I can build a new world. No, what am I going to destroy? My physical body? I cannot destroy my physical body to build a new world. I cannot destroy my physical body and then build a new world, right? Right, elixirs. I can destroy elixirs and nurture a world in them. I can transfer the great path scars into the elixirs. Yes, that is it. Lu Li's eyes were glowing. He was trembling and he kept murmuring like a lunatic. A glint of madness rose in his eyes. He was eager to have a try. Maybe he could succeed? What would happen if he succeeded? He did not know. He did not know if there would be any problems. He did not want to know too much at the moment. He just wanted to have a try. It didn't matter if the elixir was destroyed. He could build it again. It was just a matter of time. The more Lu Li thought about it, the more excited he became. He closed his eyes and sat with his legs crossed. He did not have the time to rest. He began to speculate and verify the possibility over and over again. Time moved on. 3 months had passed. Finally, Lu Li stopped. He did not rest though. His eyes were still burning with passion that could melt everything. Begin. After 3 months of deduction, he finally made up his mind to give it a try today. He had to try whether he could succeed or not. He could just destroy the elixir and build it again. Let's begin, he shouted. Then, he mobilized the energy in his acupoints and turned it into thunderbolts through the thunder-gathering formation. Thunderbolts were gathering in his abdomen. The energy was becoming more and more horrifying. One wrong move and his body would explode. Blast it! When the thunderbolts were almost done, Luli shouted, and then he controlled the thunderbolts to strike at the elixir. Countless powerful thunderbolts whooshed on and landed on the elixir. The elixir cracked. Luli trembled and blood gushed out from his mouth. But at this moment, he could not worry about anything else. He mobilized the energy in his acupoints to peel off the traces of great laws from his bones and transfer them to the cracked elixir one by one. The elixir was cracked. The profound divine energy was condensed into a paste. Luli placed the traces of great laws into the paste according to the arrangement in the primordial world. 10, 100, 1000, 3653. An hour later, almost all the traces of great laws had been peeled off and placed into the paste. There was only one left. That was the trace of great laws that was integrated with the chains of order. Luli could not peel off this trace of great laws, nor could he move it. The chains of order were too strong for him to control. Whoosh! While Luli was at a loss of what to do, this trace of great laws flew over on its own. It went into the spot in the chaos that Luli had planned. Buzzing, more than 3,000 traces of great laws glowed at the same time, as if they were drumming. A surge of energy spread out, making Luli's soul tremble. At the same time, outside of the Heaven Emperor's sword formation, the weather changed. Xian energy from all sides was gathering toward this place. The heaven and earth spiritual energy condensed into auspicious clouds high up in the sky, actually producing a heaven and earth anomaly. What? How? Chapter 2753. The Celestial Emperor Realm was a strange world. Different from the outside world, it was created by the first Saint Emperor of the Celestial Emperor sect before his death. This world was more stable than the average secret realms, almost as stable as the space in the boundless ruins. Later on, the world became more and more stable under the efforts of many sections. Many treasures were left behind and many miraculous places were built. This small world was the foundation of the Celestial Emperor sect, their base camp. If this small world were to collapse, it would be a greater loss for the Celestial Emperor sect than the death of the current master. Hence, when the heaven and earth spiritual energy in the Celestial Dharch realm showed signs of abnormal changes, all the experts in the Celestial Dharch sect were immediately alarmed. Countless experts in the Celestial Dharch peak soared into the sky and turned into streams of light as they flew towards the Celestial Dharch sword formation. What is going on? What is going on? Why are there so many powerful warriors of the sect? I think I saw the master just now. It's not just him. I vaguely saw the 3 forefathers and almost all the emperors flying toward the southwest. What is going on over there? Is some force going to attack the Celestial Emperor sect? No. Everyone check. Spiritual energy in heaven and earth is moving. It seems to be moving toward the southwest. Let's go and take a look. The entire Celestial Emperor peak was in an uproar. Many people were ready to fly toward the southwest. However, several patriarchs came out and stopped all the disciples, telling them to stay in the Celestial Emperor peak. The southwest? Wang Ningxue and Hu Shimeng gathered together, both worried. Hu Shimeng could not keep his thoughts to himself. He touched his nose and asked softly, The southwest seems to be where the Celestial Emperor sword formation is. Did Luli make a big fuss? I am worried about that as well. Wang Ningxue's pretty face turned pale. There was only the Celestial Dharch sword formation in the southwest. She had not heard of anyone challenging the Celestial Dharch sword formation in the past few months, so Wang Ningxue had an ominous feeling. All the powerful warriors of the sect were on the move. If it was really Luli, he would be killed by the powerful warriors of the sect. In addition to Hu Shimeng and Wang Ningxue, Emperor Rui was worried as well. He and Emperor Heng were drinking tea and chatting. When they sensed that something was wrong, they immediately rushed over. Originally, they could have taken the teleportation formation. However, something strange had happened in the Celestial Emperor realm, and they didn't dare to take the teleportation formation. They were afraid that, if the space collapsed, they would also die. The Celestial Dharch sword formation was not very far away. Given their speed, it only took them less than an hour to fly over. When they saw the heaven and earth anomaly from afar, they were shocked. Normally, heaven and earth anomalies would not appear. Only when a cultivator touched the laws of heaven and earth, or caused a resonance, or caused a problem in this part of the world, would heaven and earth anomalies appear. It was very obvious that the anomaly in front of them was not the latter. The nearby space was very stable, and the Celestial Emperor realm did not have any problems. It could only be that someone had touched the rules of heaven and earth, or triggered the resonance of heaven and earth. They looked at each other and felt relieved. They had sensed that it was Luli who caused all this. Fortunately, it was not the third option. If Luli had caused problems in the Celestial Emperor realm, not even Lord Li could save him, let alone the Rui Emperor. He might even be executed on the spot. Touching the rules of heaven and earth or triggering the resonance of heaven and earth was not a big deal. Instead, it was a good thing for Luli. After all the powerful warriors in the sect were alarmed. Luli had shown his face in front of all the powerful warriors. Making sure that Luli was not causing any trouble, Emperor Rui and Emperor Heng used psychic power to check the Celestial Emperor sword formation to see what had happened to Luli. What could cause such a huge anomaly in heaven and earth? Had Luli learned a super strong fundamental principle? The Celestial Emperor realm was so stable. If it were not for the ultimate fundamental principle, then this would not have happened. Emperor Rui and Emperor Heng were curious. In addition to them, there were many other great Emperor realm warriors nearby. They were curious. Even martial emperors were alarmed. Many great Emperor realm patriarchs were here. The saint emperors were nowhere to be seen. They must be hiding in the void and did not show up. The saint emperors could not see what was going on inside. The inhibition formations of the Celestial Emperor sword formation were strong. Even great Emperor realm warriors could faintly sense it. They sensed that the Xian Qi in heaven and earth was gathering toward Luli. It was as if Luli was a huge magnet, attracting the Xian Qi of the entire Celestial Emperor realm. What? The great Emperor realm warriors tried to sense the Xian Qi in heaven and earth. They realized that the Xian Qi was gathering toward Luli's pellet. When they tried to sense Luli's pellet, they realized that it was different from the average pellet. Was the pellet broken? Had it turned into chaos? Was there a small space in the chaos? The Xian Qi in heaven and earth had entered this small space. The small space was only the size of a finger. However, all the Xian Qi in heaven and earth vanished without a trace. It was as if this small space was a black hole that could suck in the Xian Qi in heaven and earth endlessly. What? Emperor Rui and Emperor Heng looked at each other, their faces showing a trace of uncertainty and surprise. They made eye contact for a moment. Emperor Heng said with uncertainty, "Has this kid cultivated a state of Dharma?" "Very likely," the great emperor in the distance suddenly said. "He has absorbed so much Xian Qi in heaven and earth. That state of Dharma is on the verge of taking shape. What is happening to this kid? Has his physical body been perfected? He has developed a state of Dharma directly. Is he about to reach the great Emperor realm? He is only at the 5th tribulation. How can he skip the 6th tribulation and become a great emperor directly? But if he is not a great emperor, then how do you explain the state of Dharma that is taking shape? This should be a state of Dharma. It is strange that it is taking shape in the Dantian. But it is so similar to a state of Dharma. A warrior at the 5th tribulation has cultivated a state of Dharma. I don't think this has ever happened in the history of millions of years in the endless ruins of gods. The great emperors around shared their opinions. More patriarchs of the quasi-emperors could not sense Lu Li's situation, so they had to get the information from the other great emperors. After the group of quasi-emperors heard this, their eyes widened and their faces were filled with disbelief. Many others were jealous. They had lived for so many years and rarely showed such emotions. But now they could not help it. State of Dharma. State of Dharma was the symbol of the great emperor realm and the reason why they could be so powerful. Every great emperor had a state of Dharma inside his body. State of Dharma was the source of strength that allowed great emperors to surpass all the other quasi-emperors. Countless quasi-emperors had spent countless precious divine materials, countless time, and hundreds of attempts, but they had all failed to condense a Dharma realm. They had been stuck in the quasi-emperor realm, unable to take that crucial step. But a young disciple, a disciple that had just joined the Celestial Emperor sect and was converted from a registered disciple, had begun to build a state of Dharma? Judging by the words of the great Emperor realm warriors, Lu Li was on the verge of success. How could they not be shocked? How could they believe it? How could they accept it? What was more, Lu Li was only at the 5th tribulation and he had just made it not long ago. He did not have the foundation to build a state of Dharma. This had never happened in the history of the endless ruins of God. It was common knowledge in the endless ruins that one could not build a state of Dharma to reach the great Emperor realm before reaching the great Emperor realm. What was going on inside Lu Li's body? Not only the patriarchs, Emperor Rui, Emperor Heng, Emperor Wu, and even Lord Li, who was standing on the other side, could not figure it out. Chapter 2754. Creating a world was actually not that big of a deal. Every warrior of the great Emperor realm could build a Dharma realm. It was just that some had stronger Dharma realms and some had weaker ones. Some had strange Dharma realms. This Celestial Emperor realm was a Dharma realm. But before the first Saint Emperor of the Celestial Emperor sect passed away, he moved this Dharma realm from his body into the void and refined it into a real one. As a matter of fact, Lu Li once went to a super Dharma realm, the one that the dragon rebel race, the Lin family and the Fan family were fighting over. That place was also a Dharma realm created by a Saint Emperor. He refined it before his death. Otherwise, when he died, the Dharma realm would disappear. When he moved it out, at least his mark would be left in the world. The Dharma realm would exist forever, and so would his mark in the world. Therefore, Lu Li thought that by creating a world, he was the creator, the main god, which was ridiculous. A Dharma realm was not the same as a real world. This Celestial Emperor realm was refined by the first Saint Emperor of the Celestial Emperor sect. Later on, more Saint Emperors worked on it. This Celestial Emperor realm was essentially the same as a small world. The difference was that this world was more stable. The Xian energy in heaven and earth was richer. There were more treasured lands. Marks of Tao and marks left by many powerful warriors were more abundant. That was all. Lu Li did not know that he had caused such a phenomenon. He had no time to think about whether he was the creator or not. He noticed that a large amount of Xian energy in heaven and earth was surging into his body. He had no time to think about other things. He had to concentrate on the situation inside the pellet. The entire divine elixir shattered, and the divine power that did not dissipate turned into a paste and gathered together. When he placed the more than 3,000 marks of the great Tao in the pellet according to the pattern in the primordial realm, he noticed that the pellet had changed. More than 3,000 great Tao traces lit up, forming a whole body. It was like a human skeleton supporting the glue-like thing, also giving it a backbone. As the spiritual chi of heaven and earth surged in from all directions, the paste also changed. The substance that was originally half liquid and half gas actually showed signs of solidifying at this moment, as if it was about to become solid. The paste gathered near the marks of the great path and slowly began to solidify. More than 3,000 marks of the great path intertwined with each other, forming a net-like sphere. A small space appeared inside. A steady stream of heaven and earth spirit chi poured in from all directions. All of it was sucked into the space in the middle of the great path mark. This space also slowly stabilized. At this moment, Luli had a very strange feeling. He felt that he had some sort of connection with that space. The space looked like it was only the size of a thumb, but it was actually very big inside. It was about 1,000 miles in radius. It was like a super large spatial artifact. However, there was nothing inside, only darkness. Moreover, the space inside was extremely unstable, as if it could collapse at any time. The good thing was that heaven and earth spirit energy was pouring in from all directions, causing this world to gradually stabilize. The spatial fluctuations were also not as intense as before. Time moved on. Soon, one day had passed. The phenomenon in the sky was still there, and the Xian Qi in heaven and earth was still surging toward Lu Li's pellet. Lu Li's pellet, on the other hand, had changed into a white ball. The glue-like substance solidified together and completely enveloped the great Tao scar. Looking from the outside, one could only see a white, irregular oval ball floating in Lu Li's abdomen, spinning slowly. Even after a day of absorbing Xian Qi, that small space was not stabilized. Every now and then there would still be tremors in the space. Cracks would appear and the space would tremble violently. That being said, the space was gradually stabilizing and developing in a positive direction. Luli was a bit relieved. There was nothing he could do except to wait. Similarly, a group of great emperors and emperor quasi-realm warriors were waiting outside as well. Lu Li's space was like a Dharma realm and yet not. Therefore, those great emperors were staying here. They wanted to see what Lu Li would make. They wanted to see if Lu Li could create a miracle, and they could be the witnesses. The conditions to build a Dharma realm were harsh. Many treasures would be consumed, and the right timing was required. It would be best if the Dharma realm could be built during the heavens' tribulation, because it would be the easiest to take shape. However, first of all, Lu Li did not use any precious materials. Second, he did not go through the heavens' tribulation. How could he build it so easily? What was more, Lu Li was a fifth tribulation warrior. Most importantly, there were signs in heaven and earth. When some great emperors built a Dharma realm successfully, heaven and earth would resonate and cause signs in heaven and earth. But that would only happen after the Dharma realm was built. What was more, there would only be some auspicious clouds. The great emperors would not absorb Xian Qi like crazy like Lu Li. There were too many strange things. After all, a couple of days or a dozen days was just a blink for those great emperors. They could wait for a couple of months. They must pay attention to the changes in the space at all times. They could not let anything happen to the celestial emperor realm. Soon, 18 days had passed. Lu Li's elixir seemed to have come together again. The paste was gone and in its place was a white ball. This ball was originally an irregular oval ball. After 18 days, it had become a white ball without any edges. It was like a rubber ball. It was as if Lu Li was building a new elixir. At the moment, all the great emperors noticed that the space inside the ball was becoming more and more difficult. It was as if there was a Dharma realm coming into being in there. It was isolated from this world, and could not be sensed from the outside. The space inside had become much more stable. At the very least, there would not be any violent spatial fluctuations, nor would there be any large spatial cracks. Also, Luli noticed that the space was expanding. It was growing slowly, but it was expanding. Luli himself could not understand all this. He had to observe quietly until the space was completely stabilized and the Xian Qi in heaven and earth stopped surging in. Time moved on. 1.5 months had passed. The auspicious clouds in the sky were dispersing. The Xian Qi in heaven and earth had died down. The entire celestial emperor realm had returned to peace. "Okay, go back to your posts," Lord Li suddenly said. "Master has given the order. We are the only ones who know about this. Nobody is allowed to tell anyone else. Otherwise, we will not let you off lightly. This is a top secret. No discussion is allowed and no one is allowed to look into Luli." Yes. They were curious and wanted to wait for Luli to come out and see for themselves. However, since it was Lord Li who had given the order, nobody dared to disobey. They all flew toward the celestial emperor peak. "Emperor Rui, wait!" Chapter 2755. Buzzing. The door behind Lu Li suddenly opened. A man came out. That man grabbed Lu Li's shoulder and took him out. Then, Lu Li felt a white glare. He found himself at the starting point. He had been in complete darkness in the stone room. Now that there was light all of a sudden, he was not used to it. He squinted and opened his eyes after a moment. Seeing the Rui Emperor standing next to him, Lu Li bowed and said, "Master." "Yes." The Rui Emperor nodded. He used psychic power to check where Lu Li's pellet was. To his surprise, the Rui Emperor realized that his psychic power could not penetrate Lu Li's pellet. Naturally, he could not sense the small world Lu Li had created. Lu Li became nervous when the Rui Emperor showed up all of a sudden and even searched for his pellets. He felt his secret had been discovered. He did not dare to say anything and just stood there quietly. The small world had taken shape. At the very least, it would not collapse. Lu Li did not have to worry. What he was worried about was why the Rui Emperor would show up. Had the Rui Emperor been monitoring him? The Rui Emperor checked for a while. Making sure that he could not see anything, the Rui Emperor said with a frown, "Lu Li, I will take you to Master later. If he asks you questions, just answer him honestly. Don't worry. This should be a good thing for you. We will talk about the rest after we meet with Master." Master? Lu Li was even more nervous. How come the Master of Heaven Emperor sect was alarmed when he created a small world? That was a Saint Emperor, one of the most powerful in the world. Also, wasn't he going to challenge the levels? Could it be that he didn't want to challenge the trial and directly left? "Let's go." The Rui Emperor grabbed Lu Li's shoulder. After a glare, they appeared outside the sword formation of Heaven Emperor. There was no one outside now. Lord Li and Emperor Heng had left. The Rui Emperor brought Lu Li into the teleportation formation. After a glare, they appeared on the peak of Heaven Emperor. Before Lu Li had the chance to check, the Rui Emperor had taken him to the back of the mountain in a blur. Though they did not stay for long, many people had noticed. Wang Ningxue and Hu Shimeng had been paying close attention. They noticed at once. Their hearts were weighed down. Lu Li was taken out of the sword formation of Heaven Emperor? To the back of the mountain? He had obviously committed a crime. It even alarmed the sect's bigwigs. Would he be severely punished? Would he be executed? To the disciples of the Heavenly Emperor sect, the back mountain was a forbidden area. Let alone disciples, even ordinary elders weren't qualified to enter. Lu Li, on the other hand, was taken in by Emperor Rui. Under normal circumstances, they would have been stopped long ago. Lord Li should have informed them beforehand, so no one stopped them. The Rue Emperor was so fast that Lu Li only saw a blur before he found himself outside a cave. The cave was very beautiful. It was like a paradise. Standing outside the cave, Rue Emperor bowed and said, "I am here with my disciple Lu Li to request an audience with Master." "Come in." A hoarse voice came. The Rue Emperor bowed again. Lu Li came to his senses and bowed as well. Emperor Rue showed Lu Li in. It seemed to be a cave from the outside, but it was a hall on the inside. The furnishings of the main hall were very simple, but they were very grand. Nobody was in the hall. Emperor Rue said nothing after he brought Lu Li in. Lu Li had to stand behind him. A moment later, a wall in front of the main hall suddenly lit up. Then, a pair of eyes appeared on the wall. What kind of eyes were they? Lu Li looked into the pair of eyes and felt like he had become a naked child. All his secrets were exposed to this pair of eyes. Compared to the eyes, Lu Li felt he was a grasshopper in front of a giant. No matter how he struggled, Lu Li could be killed in one move. A faintly discernible psychic power seeped into Lu Li's abdomen. At that moment, Lu Li noticed that the more than 3,000 traces of Tao suddenly glowed. The entire pellet became a whole, isolating the outside world. "What?" the pair of eyes said in surprise. Then, the hoarse voice said, "This Dharma realm is amazing. Not even I can see it. Lu Li, how did you build this Dharma realm?" "Dharma realm?" Lu Li blinked in confusion. He was stunned for a moment. Emperor Rue said, "Lu Li, Master is asking you about the small world inside your pellet. How did you build it? Tell me the truth." "Oh, I see." Lu Li came back to his senses. He cupped his fists and said, "Master, I was in the Heaven Emperor's sword formation. At the 14th level, I realized I could not make it. So, I tried to improve my abilities. You also know that it was very dark there, so it was inevitable that I became a little confused. There was lightning in the acupoints in my body, and I accidentally controlled the lightning to shatter the God Core. Then, the God Core slowly evolved and mutated. Also, my chains of order seemed to have gone into the pellet. Now, there is no divine energy in my pellet. I think there is a small space. Sect Master, is there something wrong with my body? Will I have no more divine energy in me? Will I become a good-for-nothing?" Lu Li's words were not entirely true. He did not tell them about the trace of Tao. Everyone knew about the chains of order. There was no need to hide it. He had thunderbolts in his acupoints. The masters could tell. There was no need for him to hide it. He did have no divine energy left and he was a bit panicked. But it was natural for him to express his emotions. Apart from the fact that he built the Dharma realm on purpose and the trace of Tao, he did not hide anything else. The eyes on the wall showed strange expressions. The Rue Emperor was lost in his thoughts as well. He was confused. Dharma realm. That was something that could only be done by an emperor quasi-emperor, and it required a lot of preparation. It was not as simple as Lu Li's. Striking the pellet with thunderbolts? That could create a Dharma realm? Wouldn't everyone be able to condense it? Was it the chains of order? The Rue Emperor did not have a deep understanding of chains of order. Over the course of history, some warriors of the Heaven Emperor's sect had acquired chains of order. But they were all at the Emperor realm and Saint Emperor realm. Master thought for a while but realized that he could not get anything out of Lu Li. Lu Li was confused and he could not sense the situation in Lu Li's Dharma realm. After a while Master said, "Okay, Rue Emperor, take him away. Teach him the ways to cultivate the Dharma realm. If he can cultivate source energy, report it to me." "Yes, Master." The Rue Emperor bowed and left with Lu Li. Then, he took Lu Li back to the Rue fort. Seeing Wang Ningxue and Hu Shimeng coming out in a hurry, the Rue Emperor waved his hand and said, "Go back to cultivate." Do not tell anyone about Luli and do not ask about it. Otherwise, you will be punished according to the rules. Chapter 2756. Emperors represented supreme status and power. In cultivation, great emperors didn't just represent supreme status and power, they also represented tyrannical combat strength. Whether it was the third heaven or the endless divine ruins, emperor-level experts were all supreme experts, supreme existences. Even though emperors shared the word emperor, there was a world of difference in abilities. Unless an emperor was an idiot, an emperor could not be killed by a quasi-emperor, no matter how many quasi-emperors there were. Emperors had their own realm of Dharma, which could generate source of energy. That was a power many times stronger than divine energy and average strength. It was a source of energy nurtured in the realm of Dharma. With this kind of energy, a warrior's speed of attack and defense would soar. They could not be killed, could not be caught up, and could not be stopped. All kinds of attacks were ineffective against an emperor. If an emperor could not catch up with an emperor, what would be the point of having more quasi-emperors? How could those quasi-emperors kill an emperor? Realm of Dharma was the symbol of an emperor, and source of energy was the source of their power. Luli finally understood after Emperor Rui explained it to him. It seemed that he was not creating a world, but a realm of Dharma. Luli was not so worried. He would not become a monster, but he was still looking forward to it. This was because if he could cultivate source power, then his combat strength would definitely soar. Although there might be a gap between him and a real emperor-level expert, his overall combat strength should not be much different from a quasi-emperor, or even surpass one. That being said, Luli's realm of Dharma was not a regular one. After all, a regular realm of Dharma required countless treasures to build. Luli's realm was too low. Neither Emperor Rui nor the Patriarch could sense what was going on in the realm of Dharma. Therefore, Emperor Rui was not sure if this was a realm of Dharma. I feel there is a space with a radius of more than 1,000 miles in there, and it is still growing. There is nothing in there, only darkness. The space is stable. There is no air, no water, no Xian energy in heaven and earth. Well, I thought there was a lot of Xian energy in heaven and earth. Why is it gone? Luli told Emperor Rui about the space he was in. Emperor Rui nodded and said, "It seems to be the realm of Dharma. Don't worry. It takes time for the realm of Dharma to evolve. If you want to evolve into a real small world, it will take tens of thousands of years. What you need to do now is to cultivate origin power. As long as you can cultivate origin power, you will undoubtedly become a Dharma realm, and your strength will soar. As for whether or not you have divine power, that is no longer important. Just a little bit of origin power will allow you to use it for a very long time, and its power will be 100 or even 1,000 times stronger than divine power." Luli was relieved. He was excited as well. He asked, "Master, I don't have to go back to the Heaven King's sword formation? You're going to cultivate here?" "No need," the Rui Emperor said with certainty. "As long as you can cultivate origin power, I reckon that the sect will immediately promote you to a Black Emblem disciple, or even an elder's position. When your Dharma realm is completed and your battle prowess is comparable to an emperor, you will be able to stand on equal footing with me." Luli was surprised and then overjoyed. What was he doing at the Celestial Emperor sect? To stand out in the Celestial Emperor sect, to become an important figure there, to marry Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong, and to find a way back home. Emperor realm? How unreachable was that? Although cultivating the supreme divine body would allow one to become a Dharch with their physical body, it would still be a very powerful Dharch, just like the Violet Dharch. But Luli felt it was unreachable. If one had to climb 10,000 steps to reach the Emperor realm, Luli felt he had only climbed 1 or 2,000 steps. Now, the Rue Emperor was telling him that he had suddenly reached more than 9,000 steps, and it was possible for him to reach 10,000 steps to become an Emperor realm. To Luli, this was like a dream, and he was in a trance. The Rue Emperor told Luli the cultivation method of origin energy in detail and asked him about everything. Then, he told Luli to cultivate here. He was in the castle, and Luli could go to him at any time. The room quieted down after the Rue Emperor left. Luli was still in a trance. He let his mind wander for a moment, memorized what the Rue Emperor said, and then went to sleep. The outside world had calmed down. Since Lord Li was delivering the order from the clan master, the matter was kept under wraps. Apart from the Emperor realm warriors and patriarchs, only Hu Shimeng and Wang Ningxue knew it was Luli. But they didn't know the details. The Hall of Patriarchs gave a vague explanation, saying that there was some disturbance in the space, and it had been stabilized. The disciples were told to focus on cultivation, and nothing major happened. Wang Ningxue and Hu Shimeng didn't know the specifics, but they both felt something big must have happened, and it might be good for Luli. Otherwise, Luli would have been executed or punished severely. Luli slept for 2 days before he woke up. When he woke up, he began to sort through what had happened. When he was trying the sword formation of Heaven Emperor, he was stuck at the 14th level. Therefore, he sought a breakthrough. He had planned to study the traces of Tao and improve his senses. Little did he know that by chance the idea of building a world came to him. He derived it perfectly and created it, triggering anomalies in heaven and earth. All the powerful warriors in the sect were alarmed. The space he built was similar to the realm of Dharma at the Emperor realm. If he could cultivate the realm of Dharma to perfection, could he reach the Emperor realm? Even if not, his abilities would be on par with one? After he thought it through, Luli became excited again. He didn't care about anything else. Following Emperor Rue's guidance, he tried to cultivate source energy. Source energy was source energy, the most powerful force produced by the realm of Dharma. It was the foundation of the world. Because of source energy, the world could evolve. Since the realm of Dharma was built by Emperor realm warriors, the source energy inside could be used by Emperor realm warriors. Cultivating origin energy could be said to be simple, but it could also be said to be difficult. Emperor Rue made a simple analogy, which was to treat the realm of Dharma as one's own artifact and refine it to absorb all the elements in the outside world. It would absorb Reiki in heaven and earth, the forces of wind, fire, water, earth, wood, thunder, light, darkness. In other words, it would absorb all the elements and energy that it could absorb. Then, these forces would be gathered in the realm of Dharma. The realm of Dharma, a super artifact, would integrate these elements and energy and slowly generate source energy. In other words, the realm of Dharma was a tripod, and the elements and energy were the materials. When they were absorbed, a peerless pellet would be made, and that would be source energy. Everywhere in the world, there were hidden elements and energy that could not be seen or sensed. Luli could absorb them while he was sitting in the castle. Emperor Rue had told Luli how to absorb them. Now it was up to him if he could produce source energy. If he could, even if it was just 1 drop, then Luli's combat abilities would soar. If not, then Luli's realm of Dharma would be a wasteland. His abilities would not be enhanced. Luli's realm of Dharma was similar to the realm of Dharma at the Emperor realm. But was it the real one? Nobody knew. It all depended on whether Luli could cultivate origin energy or not. Chapter 2757. Disciples of the Heaven Emperor sect did not know about Luli, but many patriarchs and emperors were concerned. Some patriarchs gathered together to discuss whether Luli was building a Dharma realm or not. If so, why would a fifth tribulation warrior build a Dharma realm? More people believed that this was not a real Dharma realm, but a deserted one. Many patriarchs and emperors were paying close attention. Every now and then, some would ask Emperor Rui if Luli had cultivated source energy. No matter what kind of Dharma realm it was, big or small, or what was special about it, the Dharma realm must be able to generate source energy. In the end, the Dharma realm still needed to be able to produce origin energy. A Dharma realm without origin energy was meaningless. This was no different from digging a hole in a martial artist's body. 3 months. Luli had been in closed-door cultivation for 3 months. The emperors learned from Emperor Rui that Luli had not cultivated any source of energy, which disappointed many. They were even more skeptical about whether Luli was in the Dharma realm. Usually, after Emperor Realm warriors went through heaven's tribulation, the Dharma realm would take shape. They would choose a place to cultivate, and in a couple of days, they could cultivate the first strand of source energy. Even the slower ones could do it in half a month or a month. Luli, on the other hand, had been cultivating for 3 months. Well, even if Luli did not understand the Dharma realm and needed to explore, even if he was not talented, 3 months should be enough. Emperor Rui was disappointed. He had thought that his apprentice would give him a surprise. If his apprentice could become an Emperor Realm warrior, then Emperor Rui would be respected in the sect and his status would be elevated. Emperor Rui believed that Luli was smart and would not cultivate randomly. If Luli could not cultivate after such a long time, then there must be something wrong with the Dharma realm. It was not Luli's fault. He followed Emperor Rui's instructions strictly and absorbed elements and energy into that space. It was a smooth process, but that space was like a bottomless pit. No matter how many elements and energy there were, they could be sucked in. Then nothing happened. Apart from the fact that the space was becoming more and more stable and expanding, nothing happened. So much xian qi, elements and energy went in, but it was like a stone sinking into the ocean. No source energy was produced in that space. It was empty, nothing at all. The heaven and earth spiritual qi and elemental powers disappeared without a trace. Luli was confused. He didn't quite understand. He thought that it would take time, so he didn't come out of seclusion. When the Rui Emperor asked, he only replied with a single sentence and continued to cultivate. In addition to his surprise, the chains of sequence were gone as well. Luli did not know where they went, which made his heart ache. This was a heavenly treasure that could save lives. He couldn't afford to lose it. Actually, he really wanted to ask the Blood Evil Sovereign, but the Rui Emperor was right beside him, and he was afraid of exposing himself. The Blood Evil Emperor's sound transmission would cause fluctuations. What kind of person was the Rui Emperor? What if he sensed it? The Blood Evil Emperor didn't send a voice transmission either. He probably had some scruples. Luli had to cultivate his soul, use soul refinement skill, and build the Dharma realm at the same time. During this period of time, his soul had improved by quite a lot. The Holy Soul Orb would continuously improve his soul. In addition, he had been constantly refining the godly soul medicine and refining his soul. It was difficult for his soul to improve even if he wanted to. Half a year had passed. Emperor Rui could not help but ask again. However, Luli's answer disappointed him even more. Luli's eyes were filled with disappointment and confusion. Emperor Rui could not be fooled. The Rui Emperor reported the information to the clan master. The clan master didn't say anything and just asked Luli to continue cultivating. If Luli could cultivate origin energy, then report it to him. If not, then there was no need to report it. The clan master's intention was clear. If Luli could cultivate it, then to the clan master, Luli would be worthy of his attention and attention. If he could not, then what was the difference between him and an average disciple? As the clan master, of course, he would not pay attention to it. After those great emperors received the news, they paid less attention to Luli. Many patriarchs, on the other hand, were secretly delighted. If Luli could really cultivate source energy, then these old guys who had been cultivating for so many years would feel like they had been slapped in the face. Many quasi-emperors had tried to build a Dharma realm, but the success rate was very low. For the patriarchs of the Heaven Emperor sect, there would be a martial emperor every 10,000 to 50,000 years. They had a lot of quasi-emperors and hundreds of patriarchs. There were still people reaching the martial emperor realm. Some quasi-emperors died of old age with regrets or died in those dangerous places. If it was a young quasi-emperor that reached the martial emperor realm, the patriarchs would feel better. Luli was a 5 tribulation warrior, and he did not use any treasures to reach the martial emperor realm in such a short time after joining the sect. In that case, all the quasi-emperor elders would feel extremely ashamed and would have no place to put their old faces. Luli could not cultivate origin energy for half a year, which meant that the Dharma realm that Luli was in might be a deserted one, or it might not be a Dharma realm at all. Some patriarchs mentioned that Luli should still be in the Heaven Emperor sword formation. They suggested that the Hall of Discipline put Luli in there again, and that he could not come out until he passed the 18th level. Of course, this was only said in private. No one would actually do such a thing. Anyway, the matter about Luli gradually died down. 2 months later, something happened at the north of the Heaven Emperor dynasty that attracted the attention of all the higher-ups of the Heaven Emperor sect. Nobody paid attention to Luli anymore. There was a small world at the north which had been sealed for hundreds of thousands of years. But recently, the seal was suddenly broken. Then, many powerful beasts and demons surged out and wreaked havoc in several nearby cities. 3 small cities were breached and millions of civilians were killed or injured. The entire Heaven Emperor dynasty was shaken. The master of the Heaven Emperor sect was enraged. At once, he mobilized more than a dozen martial emperor realm warriors, more than 100 patriarchs, and many disciples to suppress the beast. This time, the saint emperors of the Heaven Emperor sect did not come out to give the patriarchs and disciples a chance to fight, so that more disciples could grow. Millions of warriors were mobilized to surround that area. The entire Heaven Emperor dynasty and the Heaven Emperor sect's attention was drawn there. Emperor Rue was mobilized as well. Emperor Rue seemed to be getting impatient waiting. He had taught Luli what he should. It was up to Luli's luck whether he could succeed or not. Emperor Rue was in charge of many hidden forces of the Heaven Emperor sect. Naturally, he had to go there and take command. Wang Ningxue went to fight. She would not miss such a good chance to gain experience. Therefore, the entire Fort Rue was quiet. Luli did not know what was going on outside. Emperor Rue said nothing. Luli went on cultivating. Time flew by while Luli was cultivating. Soon, another 4 months had passed. Luli had been cultivating in the Fort Rue for a year. Chapter 2758. 1 year and 19 days. Luli had been cultivating for 1 year and 19 days. He didn't think much of it. He thought it would take a long time for a Dharma realm to be developed after it was formed. But Emperor Rue had asked twice. Luli could tell that Emperor Rue was anxious and disappointed. Therefore, as soon as he cultivated a strand of source energy, Luli came out to report to Emperor Rue at once. He wanted to learn how to use source energy from Emperor Rue. In the center of the small world in his core, there was a mass of white energy. The mass of energy was not large, only the size of a fist. Compared to the space with a radius of nearly 3,000 miles, it was tiny. Luli could feel the power of that mass of energy. If he could use that mass of energy, he believed that his abilities could be improved by leaps and bounds. Master? Master! He called out to his master in the castle, but got no response. He used psychic power to check the castle. Apart from one room where the divine pattern was activated, there was no one else. That room was not for living. It was a storage room where Emperor Rue stored his materials. Emperor Rue was not in the castle. Luli was disappointed. He opened the divine pattern in the castle and walked out. There were maids outside. Luli was even more disappointed after asking about them. Emperor Rue was not in the Heaven Emperor universe, and neither was Wang Ningxue. It was said that something had happened at the north. Both Emperor Rue and Wang Ningxue had gone out. They would not be back anytime soon. Luli had finally cultivated a strand of source energy. He was delighted, but he had no one to share it with. He sighed in disappointment. He asked the maidservant a few questions, and was about to return to continue his cultivation, when someone happened to be walking into the manor. Hu Shimeng. Lu Li's eyes glowed. He flew toward the gate at once. Hu Shimeng sensed Lu Li as well. He dashed in, overjoyed to see that Lu Li had come out from cultivation. Many disciples of the Heaven Emperor sect were mobilized to the north. Hu Shimeng, however, was not selected. He was sent to the north as a reserve team. Hu Shimeng was upset. He had been coming here often to see if Lu Li had come out from cultivation. Emperor Rue was not in the castle. Hu Shimeng could sneak in to have a chat with Lu Li and ask some questions to satisfy his curiosity. Go, go, go. Let's talk inside. Hu Shi dragged Lu Li into the castle and activated the divine patterns. He asked with excitement, Lu Li, what did you do at the Heaven Emperor's sword formation? All the experts in the sect have been alerted. Even the sect master and a few saint emperors have been dispatched. Ningxue and I were worried sick. We thought that you had caused a huge commotion. Lu Li forced a smile. He could not say more about this. Emperor Rue had told him not to tell others about this. He thought about it and said, Brother Hu, it's not that I don't want to tell you, but Master said that if I divulge it, I will be punished by Master. In that case, can you at least tell me the reason why you didn't continue to challenge the Heavenly Dharch sword formation and was brought back? I can't say it. Why are you going to Ho Wang Mountain? Which big shot did you meet? This. I can't say either. You can't say this, you can't say that. What can you say? Sorry, I can't tell you anything now. If I can tell you in the future, I will tell you everything. Okay, I won't ask. Hu Shimeng was disappointed. He had wanted to gossip, but it turned out that Lu Li could not say anything. He knew the rules and had to let it go. He thought for a while and said with confusion, A while ago, many patriarchs of different sects were paying attention to you. But recently, nobody has been paying attention to you. But there are demons in the north. They must be paying attention there. Many have gone to eliminate demons, including your master. Unfortunately, I was eliminated. I have to go with the second batch. I am bored to death in the Heaven Emperor realm. Now, there is a rule that I cannot go out at will. If I go to the Heaven Emperor city to indulge in debauchery and get caught, I will be in trouble. Lu Li asked, When will the war at the north end? When can my master come back? Lu Li wanted to ask Emperor Rue how to use his source energy. Naturally, he hoped that Emperor Rue could come back as soon as possible. Hu Shimeng shook his head and said, Not so soon. That world used to be a world of demons. It has been sealed for hundreds of thousands of years. Now that the seal is opened, there are too many demons coming out. Though more than a dozen Emperor Realm warriors have gone to control the situation, I think the sect wants to use the demons to train us. I heard that the powerful warriors are not doing anything now. It is the disciples who are going to eliminate the demons. It will take a long time. Oh, never mind then. I will stay here and cultivate. Emperor Rue was not back yet, and he could not go out to find him. He had to cultivate in the Rue fort. The more source energy he could cultivate, the better. Now that he had mastered it, there was no doubt that he would reach the initial stage of the realm of magic. When Emperor Rue came back, Lu Li only needed to learn how to use the source energy and his abilities would be improved by leaps and bounds. By then, the sect would grant him the identity of a black badge disciple and even a patriarch position. His status in the sect would be elevated and he would be more famous. He would have a higher chance of going to the Holy Girl sect to propose marriage. Thinking of the Holy Girl sect, Lu Li asked casually, "Brother Hu, is there any news from the Holy Girl sect? You know about the discussion at Huayang?" Lu Li's sudden question surprised Hu Shimeng. Lu Li had been in the Heaven Emperor sword formation and had been cultivating in the Rui fort ever since. How did he know about the discussion at Huayang? Hu Shimeng didn't think too much about it. He exclaimed, "There are 10 more months to the discussion at Huayang. I heard that the higher-ups of the sect said that they were not going to participate. Now that something is happening at the north, they will not. I wanted to go and watch. It would be nice if I could hook up with 1 or 2 disciples of the Holy Girl sect." "What discussion at Huayang?" Lu Li's eyes sharpened. "You don't know? I thought you got the news." Hu Shimeng was surprised. Then he told Lu Li about the discussion at Huayang. Lu Li was like an enraged lion. His eyebrows were raised. He thought about it and said in a deep voice, "Brother Hu, can I ask you for a favor? Use your Hu family's connections to find out 2 disciples of the Holy Girl sect, the Dragon Rebel Antelope and Xiang Linglong. Find out if they are going to be 2 of the 35 disciples to be married off. This is very important to me. Please, Brother Hu." "This is not a big deal." Hu Shimeng frowned and said, "I will have someone send a message. Are they related to you? Don't worry about it. Go and help me." Lu Li stood up impatiently and bowed to Hu Shimeng. Hu Shimeng asked no more questions and left in a hurry. Lu Li paced up and down in his room by himself. The joy he felt from cultivating origin energy was gone. His original plan was to make a name for himself in the Heaven Emperor sect. After his status was improved, he would ask Emperor Rui to take him to the Holy Girl sect. As long as he could demonstrate his potential, the Holy Girl sect would consider marrying the 2 to him. But things had changed. Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong might not join the inner sect based on their characters. In that case, they might become the victims of the discussion at Huayang. The Heaven Emperor sect and the Holy Girl sect were far away from each other. If Lu Li went to the Heaven Emperor sect for help, the Heaven Emperor sect would not agree. If he sneaked out and took a flying beast to the Holy Girl sect, it would take him at least 2 or 3 years. Chapter 2759. The higher-ups of the Celestial Emperor sect had made it clear that they would not attend the seminar in Huayang. Also, there was something going on at the north. It was almost impossible for Lu Li to go to the Holy Ladies sect. Therefore, it would be pointless even if Lu Li begged Emperor Rui or Lord Li. The Celestial Emperor sect would not change the rules for him, nor would they open a space portal for him to go to the Holy Ladies sect. The Celestial Emperor sect was a place of rules. There were many rules. Once a disciple made a mistake, he would be punished. Since the rules were so important, the Celestial Emperor sect would not change its rules for the sake of others. Therefore, Lu Li was panicking when he heard about the seminar in Huayang. Based on his understanding of Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong, they would not join the Holy Ladies sect. Both of them were top-notch beauties, and their strength wasn't bad either. The possibility of them becoming marriage partners was very high. They were staunch. How could they yield? How could they be pressured to marry someone they did not like? The outcome of the 2 seemed to be predestined. The more Lu Li thought about it, the more anxious he became. All the efforts he had made at the Celestial Emperor sect could not help him. Even if he had a master at the Great Emperor realm, there was nothing he could do. If he were to ask Emperor Rui for help, he might be locked up. Emperor Rui would not allow him to mess around. A disciple of the Celestial Emperor sect messing around at the Holy Ladies sect would affect the relationship between the 2 sections. The 2 sects were not on good terms. If Luli were to mess around, he might start a war between the two sections. How could Emperor Rui agree to let Luli go to the Holy Lady's sect? Calm down, calm down. Luli forced himself to calm down. What he needed to do now was to wait for news and make sure if Lu Ling and Xiang Linglong would be the candidates for marriage. If that wasn't the case, then everything would be fine. If so, then he would have no other choice. He must try his best to go to the Holy Lady's sect and save the two. Or die with them. After a while, Luli felt he was ready to risk everything. He went back to his room and began to cultivate even more crazily. He was still going to cultivate the realm of Dharma. He needed more origin energy even if he did not know how to use it. Hu Shiming's investigation would take time. It would take at least 10 days or half a month for the news to spread. Luli cultivated patiently, day and night, trying to accumulate more origin energy. The entire Dharma realm was like a super cauldron, continuously rotating. Invisible streams of air gathered in that space, finally forming strands of white energy. Time passed by day. After 17 days, Hu Shiming finally came back. Luli stopped cultivating at once. He welcomed Hu Shiming in and let him into the room. "How is it?" he asked anxiously. Hu Shiming's expression was rather grave. He nodded and said, "According to the analysis of our Hu clan's intelligence hall, the two ladies you mentioned should be candidates for a marriage alliance. Information about the two of them has already been spread. Many top-notch young masters have already declared that they are determined to get their hands on the two of them. Both of them are at the Lord Realm. Their combat strength is very strong, and they have peerless beauty and extraordinary bearings. They're top-rate beauties." Luli's mind was weighed down. As a matter of fact, he had a feeling that this was going to happen. What he didn't expect was that the two had reached the sixth tribulation. Geniuses would always be geniuses. "I must go to the Holy Lady sect." Luli made up his mind after some thoughts. It was pointless to go to the Holy Lady sect, the Rui Emperor or lordly now. Instead, he would be grounded and his freedom would be taken away. Therefore, he had to sneak away and sneak to the Holy Lady sect in the shortest time possible so that he could find a way to save the two. There would always be a way. If he went to the Holy Lady sect, he might have a chance. If he didn't, the two would die for sure. "Luli, the two?" Hu Shiming asked, but Luli didn't answer. He remained silent. After a while, Luli said, "Brother Hu, can your family open up a super-spatial gate to teleport to the Holy Lady sect?" "Super-spatial gate?" Hu Shiming frowned. He thought about it and said, "We can. But it is difficult to build such a long-distance spatial gate, and it will cost a lot of materials." "Wait, Luli, you don't want my family to open up a super long-distance spatial gate so that you can teleport there, do you?" "Yes," Luli said with certainty. "I want to borrow the strength of your family. I want to go to the Holy Lady sect. I am willing to pay any price as long as the Hu family can help me." "No way. That is impossible." Hu Shiming shook his head like a rattle drum and said, "Luli, you are being too naive. I don't have such authority in my family. Even if I did, do you think my family would dare to send you to the Holy Lady sect secretly?" "Luli, calm down," Hu Shiming said after a pause. "The rules of the sect are strict. If you dare to do anything, not even Emperor Rui can save you. You might be exiled from the sect, not to mention being executed. We don't have the guts to help you. When the big shots of the sect fly into a rage, we will follow in the footsteps of the Guan family." Hu family was an affiliated family of the Heaven Emperor sect. Hu Shiming knew the rules of the Heaven Emperor sect all too well, even though he didn't know what Luli was going to do at the Holy Lady sect. That being said, leaving the Heaven Emperor sect and the Heaven Emperor dynasty without permission was a felony in and of itself. A disciple that disobeyed orders, disregarded the interests of the sect, and acted recklessly. What was the use of that disciple? no matter how good he was. He would only bring trouble and harm to the sect. Therefore, if Luli dared to leave without permission, not even Emperor Rui could save him. He might be exiled from the sect or even hunted down. As for the Hu family that helped Luli leave, the higher-ups of the Heaven Emperor sect would give them the cold shoulder and follow in the footsteps of the Guan family. Hu Shimeng was close to Luli and he was loyal to his friends. That being said, when it came to the core interests of the family, Hu Shimeng must insist. What was more, he didn't have the authority to help Luli. Luli showed no emotion. Instead, he was terrifyingly calm. He knew what Hu Shimeng said, but he had to go to the Holy Lady sect. There was no doubt about that. Even if the Heaven Emperor sect wanted to hunt him down, he had to go, let alone be exiled from the Heaven Emperor sect. He was thinking about how to get there and how to ask the Hu family to help him. It was impossible to rely on the Heaven Emperor sect. Flying beasts were too slow. The only way was to open up a long-distance portal and teleport there in one go. Luli thought about it and asked, "Is there a branch of the Cabinet of Heaven Will in the Heaven Emperor city? Can they open a portal and send me to the Holy Lady sect?" "Yes," Hu Shimeng said with certainty, "but they will not accept a deal like yours, no matter how high the price is. Do you think they are stupid enough to offend the Heaven Emperor sect just for this deal? There is no other way. I have to count on you, Brother Hu. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.